Before we start prayers and the meeting, please could I ask all present to please treat everyone in this chamber with respect, including my chaplain, Reverend Jean Hurlston, whilst prayers are said. Can I ask my chaplain to say prayers?
O God, grant to each of us this evening an open mind to reflect on the ideas and proposals set before us. Give to us grace to listen to perspectives offered by our fellow citizens in this chamber. May we deliberate with dignity and respect for the benefit of all people who live, work and enjoy being part of this wonderful borough of Oldham. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. If members wish to remove their jackets, they may do so. May I remind members and members of the public that the meeting will be streamed live on a webcam from the Council's website. The Council has a commitment to conduct its full Council business in an environment that is welcoming, secure and safe for members, employees and visitors. It is important that meetings are conducted in a safe and fair manner. All persons present at meetings should be greeted with courtesy and respect. This includes members of the public, elected members, employees and visitors. Behaviours, language or actions that impact public safety, cause disruption and/or adjournment to the course of the business at the meetings are not acceptable. Members of the public are therefore asked to note the public meeting protocol, which is available on the Council's website, and elected members are reminded to note the elected members protocol, and for the members' code of conduct, which was signed upon taking office, which provides the details of expected principles of behaviour. The meeting protocol is available on the Council website. And before we go into the agenda items, I feel sure that you'll want to join me in wishing Councillor Ayas a very happy birthday, and he's chose to spare the time with us rather than be at home and eat cake. So if you go into the agenda items, item 1 is apologies, and I've received apologies from absence from Councillor Shan, Iqbal, Sheldon, Shuttleworth and Islam. Sorry, I couldn't read that. Item 2. Is Council agreed that the Council minutes from the meetings held on the 27th of June and the 13th of July be agreed as a correct record?
Madam Mayor, I would like to raise an issue on the minutes, please.
Yeah.
I'd like to refer to the minutes of the Council meeting for the 13th of July 2022, and I question whether the record is correct, especially in the light of the decision, now overturned, to remove the videos from the proceedings. In that meeting, the public question number 8 from Mr Warren Bates, the Deputy Mayor got involved in a debate with the member of the public defending his actions. The debate lasted a while and was quite heated. However, there is no reference to it within the minutes. Could someone explain this omission and the reason for it? Surely the minutes should be a true reflection of the proceedings. I'm very concerned as to how much and what isn't being recorded. The minutes certainly cannot be signed off by this Council as correct. Within the said debate, Councillor Chauhan referred to a recent visit to Pakistan on a numerous occasion, referred this to as his home. Whilst I personally find it disappointing, surely it should also go on public record that a successful GP, businessman, councillor and now Deputy Mayor of Oldham doesn't consider Oldham...
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I think comments about the minutes, fair enough, but comments about individual councillor who I cannot see present to defend himself doesn't sound right to me.
It's relevant. I've finished now anyway. Is this why it was omitted? That's all I'm asking.
As for the purpose of the meeting and in response to the council, obviously the minutes are a hopefully an accurate reflection of what take place. They're not verbatim, precisely, but obviously there are very extensive minutes, and it's a matter for council as to whether you accept those as a fair and proper record.
Is it agreed? Thank you.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, what is it, please?
In relation to the minutes again, please.
Yep.
Madam Mayor, they've been agreed,
Yeah.
so I believe we've moved on.
I think Mark put his hand up
I
before
did
that.
have my hand up. I think Mr Hogan.
Apologies, and I didn't see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Madam Mayor. Thank you. There is, in the transcript of the minutes from the council meeting on the 13th of July, a full section missing or deleted. I have cross-referenced this with the reinstated video recording from confirmation, and it appears that from 2 hours 21 minutes, when Councillor Holbein finishes his motion, the discussion and the comments made on the recording do not appear in the minutes until 2 hours 29 minutes. Ironically, part of the text is the leader's comments referring to CSE survivors she had spoken to, and I quote, "You can say it destroyed victims' lives, but it didn't have an impact on their lives." This is a comment I would counter.
Point of order,
Having
Madam
spoken
Mayor,
to
even on the
several
video,
survivors myself,
that is not what
and
I
they
said,
tell me-
and that is a matter of facts, that's not what I said. Now, I'm fine for you to quote back to me, Councillor Wilkinson, and I can justify what I said, but how you've quoted that back to me is not verbatim what I said.
I've taken this from the video, Councillor Cheriton. You quote, "You can't say it destroyed victims' lives, but it had an impact on their lives." That is taken from the video. However, moving on, a further piece missing from the minutes is the challenge Councillor Cheriton made to me regarding the Telford report into CSE, where she claimed my comment regarding the timescale was completely wrong. I would like to make it clear my comment was referring to the period of time it had taken Judge Crowther to compile his report based on a 30-year inquiry, 2 years, whereas Newsom and Ridgway report spanned a 5-year period and also took the same amount of time, 2 years. Further to the above, my colleague, Councillor Ray, made a point of order concerning the Labour amendment to Failsworth's Independent Party's motion. The answer which came from the panel and the Lady Mayor was not acceptable. It is clear that the Labour Council did in fact break its own constitution in writing rather than amending our motion. We would like clarification in this matter, as going forward we need to understand the position not just for us but for all members. Significant parts of that meeting have been missed out of the meeting. Once again, this is also absent in the minutes. A lesser person than myself may consider this a deliberate move by the Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
To move on to item 3, which is declarations of interest. Are they declarations of interest from members in respect of matters to be determined by the Council at this meeting? Can I advise Council that all members have an interest in item 14, members' allowances? A dispensation has been granted and all members may take part in the debate and vote therein. Can members declare any matters to the meeting? I wish to declare a personal point of GMP. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Then I will too via employment by Greater Manchester Police.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Receipt of Greater Manchester Police pension.
Yeah. Councillor Gloucester.
for fullness, I'll declare it, but having read the Green Book from cover to cover, I don't think there's actually anything in it that requires the declaration in the first place.
It was just to cover ourselves, really, being a bit transparent. Item 4, urgent business.
Declaration of interest, husband in receipt of GMP pension. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Item 4, I believe, partner works for GMP.
Anybody else? Right, move on. Urgent business, item 4. There's no items of urgent business. Item 5, communications. The leader has given advance notice that she wishes to address council. Councillor Chadderton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Briefly, I'm aware that there have been several public questions submitted to the Council this evening about the removal of the recordings of public meetings online. Given the number of questions received on various matters tonight, I wanted to ensure there was an opportunity to provide members of the public with a response on the public meetings position. Recordings of public meetings were removed from the website on a temporary basis while a review of the conduct of those meetings was undertaken by officers of the Council. I can now confirm that all recordings are now back online for residents and the media to access them. You also see that we are continuing our commitment to live streaming full Council meetings, and these will remain online for people to view on catch-up after this meeting has ended. When I became leader, I made it clear that I wanted to lead a council that is responsive to residents and one that operates in an open and transparent way. I'm pleased to have been the leader who presented a change to public meetings in my first full council for the better of our residents by extending public question time, which wasn't also popular with all of the opposition, and also putting in place a process that allows residents and those people who own a business in the borough to ask the question. Madam Mayor, I'm aware of the chatter on social media about this, and obviously I know that a lot of people, certainly some members of this council, exist in a world where conspiracy theories run wild and bear very little resemblance to the truth, but the reality is, in relation to the public meetings, it was cock-up more than conspiracy. But they're now back online, it's back being viewed, and they'll stay online. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Chadderton's mentioned that the opposition group leaders said that they didn't want to extend public question. And secondly, she's just said that people believe conspiracy theories. If she's so confident of it, then name them and then we'll have a right to reply on that.
What's the point of order? Sorry.
Oh, just for a point of clarification, I didn't actually say group leaders, I said some members of the opposition, so just to clarify that point, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Right, so we move on. Item 6, petitions. There are no petitions for Council to note. Item 7, Youth Council. There are no items of Youth Council business. Item 8. This part of the agenda is question time, where the Council will consider all questions submitted in the order received, starting with public questions. There's a 30-minute time slot for public questions, and once this time limit expires, no further questions will be asked. There is no right of reply to answers given, and I will be reading out the questions. If the time limit has expired and a member of the public has submitted a question which has been ruled in for consideration, the question and response will be published on the Council's website. And I would remind councillors that we run on a traffic light system, and once you see the amber light, you then should be realising that your time is limited, and we'll take a poor view of extensions requests. Thank you. Right, so the first question has been submitted by Matthew Smith. In the last local elections, I didn't vote for anyone, as I've been extremely disappointed in the way parties have behaved in council meetings, and also lost trust in local councillors for a number of reasons. I decided to watch the last council meeting, July, in the hope that with a new leader, things may have changed. How wrong could I be? I would like to say how disappointing it was to see the mayor lose complete control
for people to access, and we'll be publishing our plans in the near future, detailing the arrangement for the winter months. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next question has been submitted by David Barter. The government has made money available to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions of public sector buildings as part of the public sector decarbonisation scheme, which is bracketed as PSDS. 1.425 billion has reportedly made available as part of the third phase of the scheme, with more having been awarded in previous phases. Has Oldham Council benefited from previous phases of the PSDS? And if so, what has this money been spent on? And what are the estimated carbon emission reductions from any investment that has taken place? Does Oldham Council intend to submit a bid to phase B of the scheme, for which applications were intended to open this month, September? ? I call on Councillor Jabbar to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, thank Dave Barter for his question. Very important question, one that's very close to me. I can confirm that the Council has benefited from previous rounds of public sector decarbonisation scheme, securing £290,000 in round one via direct application to Salix for our air source heat pump at Alexandra Park Depot, and around £100,000 for a project to upgrade the lighting at Oldham Leisure Centre to LED lighting. The estimated carbon emission reduction from these two projects is 30.47 tonne of carbon dioxide per annum for Alexandra Park Eco Centre, and 15.94 tonne of carbon dioxide per annum for Oldham Leisure. The Council is intending to submit a further bid to the latest round for additional projects to be funded. And I'm hoping, Madam Mayor, that we'll be successful, and that will help to deliver the Green New Deal strategy that we have for Oldham. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
The next question has been submitted by Brian Kelly. Daycare provision has been closing across Oldham, including Stepping Stones Nursery in Upper Mill and Hayside Nursery in Shover. We know that good quality nursery education is important for children to get off to a good start, and how difficult it is for them to catch up once they fall behind. Can the Cabinet Member for Children tell us how many other nurseries, day nurseries and childminders have had to close in the past 2 years, and what the impact is on communities like Shover and Durka in St James's Ward? What can the Council do to support daycare provision and to encourage every family to use a free early education offer for its 2 to 4 year olds? I call on Councillor Moores to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Brian Kelly, for the question. I'm sure we all appreciate how important early years education is. Between March 2020 and the end of June this year, we have seen the closure of 57 early years settings across Oldham. The breakdown includes 4 day nurseries, 2 playgroups, 42 childminders. The remainder are holiday schemes and out-of-school clubs. However, over the same period, we have seen new provisions starting up, which means little change to the net supply of early years places across the borough. In March 2020, we had 154 childminders, and at this present time, we have 154 childminders. In March 2020, we had 239 group settings. We currently have 86 settings. The closure of day nurseries, 3 in St James's, and the number of childminders in St James's is a factor that we need to consider, and we look at these figures regularly. There is no current evidence of unmet need across the borough, and everything is rated as green across the borough, but there are pockets where we would be red. The Council is working proactively with partners to deliver frontline services to raise awareness of the 3 early years education entitlement to support parents through the eligibility checking process. Most recent comparative data from the DfE published in June 2020 shows uptake of the 2-year-old entitlement in Oldham in the January early years census at 72%. This was the same as the national average and slightly ahead of our statistical neighbours. For 3 to 4-year-olds, Oldham recorded 95% uptake, compared to 92% nationally and a 93% average among our statistical neighbours. The early years team are also supporting the sector by providing a range of free training and support, and they have recently worked with the colleagues from Get Oldham Working and Oldham College to host an early years information and recruitment event. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
The next question has been submitted by Megan Birchall. Oldham Council has previously announced a project to harness latent heat from mine shafts in the borough to use to heat buildings in Oldham Town Centre via a district heat network. In March 22, it reported that the project had been awarded £160,000 from the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy for feasibility works. Can councillors confirm the status of this project? I call on Councillor Jabbar to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, thanks Megan Birchall for her question. I can confirm that the Council is in the process of appointing an external technical and project management consultant to develop the outlined business case for this project. Once appointed, it is expected that this work will take around 12 months to complete. The Council continues to be in regular discussion with Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy around potential for additional capital grant to develop this project further. Madam Mayor, if we are able to get the appropriate support from the government, then this could be one of the biggest district heating system anywhere in the country, and it will be using renewable source to heat residential and commercial properties in the whole of the town centre. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next question has been submitted by Dion Linton. What can be done to stop pubs, family homes and shops being converted into HMOs? I call on Councillor Chadderton to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I thank Dion Linton for his question as well? I know this is a topic of conversation and the expansion of HMOs across Oldham, and it's causing concern amongst some of the local community. Unfortunately, planning permission is not needed to convert buildings into houses and multiple occupation for up to 6 people. All larger properties over that do require full planning application to be considered, and this is consulted on. The Council are exploring whether there is evidence to justify removing such permitted development rights so that we have visibility on all HMO proposals across Oldham. However, it's not something that is encouraged under national planning policy at the moment, so it's unclear whether we will be successful in that, but it's something we are looking into, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question has been submitted by Josh Charters. There has been another big reorganisation in the NHS with the creation of the Greater Manchester Integrated Care Partnership, replacing the CCGs across Greater Manchester, including Oldham's. CCGs were set up by the Coalition Langsley Reforms, so it is interesting that the government doesn't think this works and has carried out another reorganisation. Can the Cabinet Member for Health and Social Care explain how the new structure will work, who represents Oldham, and tell us if she thinks this will help reduce health inequalities and improve delivery of the NHS service? Would she agree with me that the NHS is not safe in the hands of this government? I call on Councillor Boundridge to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Integrated Care Systems, or ICSs, are partnerships of health and care organisations that come together to plan and deliver joined-up services and to improve the health of people who live and work in the area. Following several years of locally led development, based on the recommendations of NHS England and NHS Improvement, the government set out plans to put ICSs on a statutory footing. They exist to achieve 4 aims: to improve outcomes in population health and healthcare, tackle inequalities in outcomes, experience and access, enhance productivity and value for money, and help the NHS support broader social and economic development. All relevant clinical commissioning group functions and duties transferred to the ICS NHS body on the 1st of July when they were established, along with CCG assets and liabilities, including their commissioning responsibilities and contracts. Under the Health and Care Bill, a statutory ICS will be led by 2 related entities operating at system level, an ICS NHS body and ICS Health and Care Partnership. Together, these are referred to as the ICS. Each ICS partnership is responsible for agreeing an integrated care strategy for improving health care, social care and public health across the whole population, using the best insights from data available, built bottom-up from local assessments of needs and assets identified at place level, and focusing on reducing inequalities and addressing the consequences of the pandemic for communities. The ICS partnership is expected to be established locally and jointly by the relevant local authorities and the ICS NHS body, evolving from existing arrangements and with mutual agreement on its terms of reference, membership, ways of operating and administration. Local authorities that provide social care services must be included. Beyond this, members may be from health and wellbeing boards, statutory organisations, VCSE sector partners, and I've run out of time. There's a hell of a lot more to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question has been submitted by Chris Morris. It is reported that Councillor Montaz Ali Azad has had an outstanding liability of over £50,000 following his failed legal action against the council. Can the council confirm that this has now been settled in full and that the taxpayers of Oldham are not left out of pocket? I call on Councillor Mushtaq to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I thank Chris Morris for his question. I can confirm that Oldham Council taxpayers are not out of pocket. There is no financial liability outstanding to the council. Thank you.
The next question has been submitted by Lynn Kovacs. Will the relevant council officer please clarify the council's involvement with Frank Rothwell? 1. Confirm what contracts have been awarded to him or any firm associated with him over the last 5 years. 2. Clarify the council's role in the Mills Hollingwood project and confirm what financial and in-kind support it has provided to this ventures. I call on Councillor Jabbar to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I thank Lynn for her question. The only current business with Mr. Rothwell personally is that he is the leader's business ambassador, which is an unpaid position to help champion economic recovery, business support and business network opportunity for the benefit of local businesses. The council were delighted to hear about the decision that Mr. Rothwell and his family made to buy Oldham Athletic Football Club, but this decision and the transactional process had no council involvement whatsoever. With regard to specific questions, the council has no contract with Mr. Rothwell's businesses, and over the last 5 years there has been a total of £7,144.40 paid to Manchester Cabins for itemised goods and services. The council has no role or involvement with the Mills Hollingwood, and there has been no financial or in-kind support provided to this venture. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next question has been submitted by Tony Birchall. Will the council be continuing its plans to clean up alleyways in Oldham, and will it take further enforcement action against landlords and businesses who undermine those efforts to keep our town clean by illegally dumping their waste across the borough? I call on Councillor Stretton to respond.
I can confirm that the council is reviewing the success and next steps for Don't Trash Oldham, having finished all of the wards in Oldham, finishing with Hollingwood last month. And we will be reported and discussed at the Cabinet meeting on the 19th of September. Enforcement officers continue to investigate and take enforcement action on anyone who can be proven to have fly tipped, and I would like to repeat my request that all incidents of fly tipping are reported to the Council. Our approach now will be heavily focused on enforcement and on catching people who don't respect the neighbourhoods that they live in.
Thank you. The next question has been submitted by Mariah Afshan. I hope I pronounced that right. It is fantastic news that Oldham Council is taking action to protect historic buildings on Union Street. I am pleased that a compulsory purchase order for the Prudential Assurance building has been issued, and that the old library building will be brought back into use for a range of purposes, including a space for community groups to meet. There are several other grand historic buildings along the Union Street corridor which are disused, including the old Masonic Hall and half of the Lyceum. Does the Council have any plans to try and bring these back into use? I call on Councillor Chatterton to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I thank Mahara Afshan for a question as well? Union Street forms a key part of the Oldham Town Centre conservation area. It's an area of special architectural and historic interest and is underpinned by the Conservation Management Plan, which addresses key issues and challenges and in turn provides guidance and policy on how these can be addressed. These policies include the reuse of vacant heritage assets, design guidance and potential avenues the Council can take in terms of enforcement and funding. Officers are making progress with the private sector owner of the Masonic Hall to establish a way forward for its future use. The Lyceum is partly occupied at present by the music service, and we're looking into options to bring the remaining empty space back into use. As a result, both the Masonic Hall and Lyceum form part of the Council's submission to the Levelling Up Fund. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
The next question has been submitted by Isa Hussain, and I hope I've pronounced that right as well. The Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, has announced that single bus fares could be capped at £2 and day tickets at £5 from September as part of the fast-track plans to reform the fragmented bus network. Currently, TFGM Get Me There mobile app only enables passengers to buy tickets for Metrolink. As part of the plans coming forward in September, could bus tickets also be made available on this app so that passengers can pay for their travel before leaving the house? And is there any threat to this welcome reform because of the renewed legal action being taken by the bus operator Rotella? I call on Councillor Chatterton to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I thank Isa Hussain for the question as well? I'm pleased to advise that since Isa Hussain contacted us with their question, Rotala lost their court appeal, which was the last legal challenge standing in the way of the ambitious plan to franchise bus services across Greater Manchester from September 2023. Currently, you can use the Get Me There app to purchase an adult anytime bus and tram ticket in advance. You need to touch in, use a smart reader at a tram stop before you use your smart card on a bus. You can also buy many types of saver tickets in advance that give you several journeys in a day, or season tickets on bus companies' website like Arriva, Diamond, First Bus or Stagecoach. As buses get brought back into public control, then it will make sense that all GM bus tickets could also be available to purchase and advance on the Get Me There app. And Oldham officers will liaise with TFGM to see how early this can be introduced as franchising is phased in. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We've actually run out of time on that section. All the remaining questions that we've got will be printed on the Council website, so you'll find the questions and answers on there. We now move on to questions to the Leader and Cabinet. And the next part to this section is a time limit of 30 minutes, and I advance notice of questions. The Leader of the Liberal Democrat Group will ask his questions. I call upon Councillor Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Colleagues might not be too surprised that my first question tonight relates closely to the cost of living crisis, which is causing real anxiety right across our borough. Many families across Oldham are facing tremendous hardship as it becomes more and more expensive to put food on the table for their families. It is shameful then that at a time of unprecedented national hardship, the Conservative government have effectively cut free school meals by more than £212,000 in real terms across our borough. Universal infant free school meals were introduced by the Liberal Democrats in government in support of all pupils in reception year 1 and year 2. A healthy meal at lunchtime means that parents can save money at the supermarket and, more importantly, children can focus on learning, which is what school is for. No child should go hungry in Oldham Borough. If children are hungry, how are they expected to study and learn? However, since the policy was introduced 7 years ago, the Conservatives have increased the funding per pupil by just 4p. Yes, just 4p, from £2.30 to £2.34. Had the funding increased with inflation, it would now stand at around £2.50 per pupil. With inflation soaring now, these real-term cuts will get worse and the value of that meal will decrease further, meaning that children in our borough will miss out and fall behind in class. So can I ask the leader, what will the council do to try and help schools plug the gap left in their free school meals budgets by the Conservatives? And will she write to the, which I presume the new Secretary of State for Education, calling on them to reverse those cuts and reinstate the proper value of free school meals and by therefore protecting school budgets and making sure our children don't go hungry in schools? Thank you.
I call on the leader to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I thank Councillor Sykes for his question as well? I mean, I wholly agree, to be honest, and all of us, all 60 councillors, will know that the cost of living crisis is the biggest thing affecting our residents at the moment. I've been door knocking in my own ward over recess, and it is the first thing that people bring up. But the fact that we live in a country, a rich country in 2022, where people seriously have to consider over the winter, are they going to heat or are they going to eat, is absolutely disgusting, to be frank. The Conservative government have overseen what is effectively 12 years of austerity. We've been absolutely hammered as a town through the first 10 years of austerity. Then we got hammered during the pandemic, and we continue to be hammered. Do you know, the number of children that live in poverty in Oldham is appalling, and they continue to be pushed into poverty, and that is a result of an ideological choice by the Conservative government. Now, obviously, we've changed Prime Minister, haven't we, this week? I remain to be convinced that there'll be much change in direction from the government. But of course, we should all lobby the government to be able to fund that better, and also to be able to fund everything better. We've lost 50% of our budget over the past 12 years, and no wonder people live in poverty, and everything's been taken away and stripped away to their absolute bare bones. And what we've got now in Oldham are people who live in absolute entrenched poverty, and it should shame all of us. It should shame the government, and it should shame us as a country. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Sykes, would you answer your second question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I thank the leader for the answer to my first question. My second question tonight is about transport, something we've touched on earlier in the meeting with one of the public questions. After months of rigmarole and uncertainty surrounding Greater Manchester Clean Air Zone, it finally looks as though we've arrived at something resembling a workable plan. A small non-charging clean air zone in place of the original daily charge covering the whole of Greater Manchester, which would have been a disaster for people and businesses. Now, we've gone round the houses, to say the least, to get to this stage and wasted a shed load of money, but I suppose we should welcome that Mayor Burnham and the Thames GM leaders have finally seen sense and dropped the idea of a daily charge. But it's not a done deal, and we still have to wait for the government to approve the plan before we know whether the clean air zone is going to be kept free. One of the key aims of a clean air zone is to encourage the use of electric vehicles, but we know that Oldham and GM are miles behind on infrastructure to support electric vehicles. We need a much more ambitious target for charging points by 2025. Planning also needs to make sure new developments include electric charging infrastructure. And the third vital or other pillar of our transport strategy is public transport, and for the vast majority of our residents that means bus services. We have seen that several key services have had to be put out for tender. What happens if the offers are too expensive, or if new contracts can't be agreed in a timely manner, or there are no tenders? With the costs our residents are having to endure now, the last thing they want is for bus services to be reduced or axed. So will the leader agree that it's time to get a firm grip on transport in Oldham and across Greater Manchester? We need an uncharging clean air zone. We need proper sustained investment in electric vehicle charging, and we need to give passengers certainty over the future of their bus services. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I call on the leader to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I thank Councillor Sykes for his question as well? I agree with his comments about the clean air zone. Obviously, the Greater Manchester Mayor and the 10 leaders have been quite clear in our determination not to introduce a charging zone, and this has gone back to government and we're waiting for feedback from then on that. I do hope this makes sense. I think things change during the pandemic and post-pandemic. You know, we are confident now we can meet our targets within a reasonable timescale, and it's not necessary to have a charging zone. But as I say, we await the new minister to either confirm or come back in that in one way or another. With regards to electric vehicles and some of the infrastructure, I do agree with that. And we've bid to national government for some funding for this. To roll out infrastructure for electric vehicles is incredibly expensive, and we do need some kind of external funding to help with that, because we need to push people to electric vehicles. It's not sustainable to keep on driving and having cars the way that we do now. We aren't the only people in that position, and I do think there needs to be a more national approach to that as well. And in terms of the buses, the Greater Manchester Mayor is committed to electric buses post-franchising, which comes into fruition from September 23, starting in Wigan and Bolton. And he's made a commitment that any new buses, once franchising comes in, will be electric vehicles. And one of the issues about the clean air zones, and when we look at, you know, where is the highest proportion of dirty air, it is around those bus corridors. And if we can move those buses that are diesel run onto electric vehicles, it automatically solves half of our problem. I do think that once everything comes under a franchise route, we'll have more control over that, and it's easy to do that instead of operating with, I mean, there's 30 bus operators across Greater Manchester at the moment, but once that falls under one umbrella next year, then I do think we'll be able to get a grip of that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The Conservative Deputy Leader will ask his question. Councillor Lancaster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was pleased to see the Leader of the Council enjoying Whit Friday in Saddleworth earlier this year. However, as she will be aware, the future of this greatest free event on earth is not certain. The band contests bring tourism, revenue and joy to the people of the borough, and even the people who live beyond the bounds of our borough. Yet despite false promises by her two predecessors, there is still an £11,000 shortfall in funding, which the 9 Saddleworth and Lees councillors are expected to stump up. This means many smaller community events, activities and organisations are missing out on vital funding. Therefore, considering the scale and significance culturally, socially and financially of Whit Friday, will the Leader reinstate this £11,000, an amount which, in the words of Mr Fielding, would be crumbs from the table, considering the size of the council's coffers? It would only be fair considering town centre events are not funded from councillors' ward budgets. This is a borough of several townships and parishes, not just the centre.
Thank you. I call on the Leader to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and can I thank Councillor Lancaster for his question as well. Councillor Lancaster is right, I did enjoy my Friday at Whit Friday. It's quite an event to behold, to be totally honest. I am not aware of the £11,000 commitment, and I'm not sure what that is. I have had an email in relation to something else around Whit Friday, but it wasn't in relation to the £11,000. However, I will pick that up and look at that, and if Councillor Lancaster's got details of that or emails, then if you send them on to me, I'll certainly look into it. I don't, you know, I expect, while nothing is guaranteed in life, Madam Mayor, I certainly don't want to be the leader where Whit Friday has to cease. So, you know, I remain committed that Whit Friday will continue, and I don't anticipate it stopping anytime soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lancaster, your second question, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whether we in this chamber like it or not, the actions of this council over the past couple of years have been nothing short of appalling and are widely regarded as such. Instead of being open and transparent, this council has and continues to treat the people of our borough with indifference, denial, and occasionally outright hostility. This council is setting its face against doing the right thing and is now hurting the people of Oldham, who we are meant to represent. It is destabilising our borough from within. From a CEO all ready to give an opinion and enter debates, and now bypassing elected members and normal democratic checks and balances, the purging of video recordings of meetings only to have to reverse the decision shortly thereafter, council officers ignoring not only elected members but members of the public because there is no direction or leadership, a failure to believe the victims of CSE and a lack of acknowledgement of the depth of the problem this borough faces in that regard, allowing the borough to be branded odious Oldham by GB News, a mainstream national media outlet, crime on the rise whilst failing to hold Mayor Burnham as Crime Commissioner to account, and buying a shopping centre whilst local services struggle. I could go on. Madam Mayor, this council should be run for the people, by the people and of the people. Instead, it lacks direction, accountability and scrutiny. It therefore begs the question, who really makes the decisions here at Oldham Council? Indeed, it seems more and more power and decisions are being made by the Chief Executive and a cadre of officers at the very top. So this Conservative group asks, is it the case that we have a council leader in office but no longer in power?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I thank Councillor Lancaster for the question? The answer is no.
The leader of the Failsworth Independent Party will ask his question. Councillor Holbin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was one question that at least got an answer. I was going to ask a different question tonight, but I'll go back to something that Councillor Lancaster's raised, and it's the openness and transparency, or supposed, of this council. My two colleagues, Councillor Wilkinson and Councillor Hindle, asked a question before and got no answer. And I think it's a very important question when we've got videos being taken offline and flopping on the reasons for it, that the minutes of this council need to be recorded properly. And we need to have full assurance that that's being registered. I don't know who decides what goes in the minutes and what doesn't. I would hate to think that it was a political decision of which bits they don't like, they take out. But I think minutes need to be properly representative of the meetings that have gone ahead. With that in mind tonight, and with what we're supposed to do here relevant to the public and doing the job for the public, I noticed that the public have only been allowed in bits and pieces tonight, and something needs doing about that, because a lot of the public in here tonight have missed almost the first hour of a public meeting, and that isn't fair on the public, especially when district executive meetings have been stopped and all other ways of the public contacting us is being diminished. And the other issue that I want to raise and ask the leader of the council about is who was in charge of issuing ASBOs, because while I'm not afraid of ASBOs going out to people that have done something, and I allude to the people that threw objects in the chamber last time, I'm aware of people that have received these barely legal pieces of paper, banning them from council property, for merely having a go at the very people that were causing the problem last time. I have a member that's contacted me that I know very well, a member of our party, in fact, that has received one of these things for admonishing one of the other people in the public gallery. So, if you're going to get through out for raising your voice and pointing, then I think a few of the members in here might need to leave the property as well, because we can't be banning people for such trivial matters. I understand banning people for proper things, but for admonishing other people in the gallery, I think it's wrong, and I think we need to remember who we serve at this place.
Call on the leader to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I thank Councillor Holbin? I was going to say for his questions, I'm not sure there was that many questions, but I suppose a series of points that were made. The first one was about minutes of the council, was picked up earlier, so I don't need to go into that. And then in terms of the ASBIs, I mean, if people were to be banned just for having an opinion or for disliking the administration, then, you know, we would have said it out, everybody that was here. But as far as I'm aware, it was a relatively small number of people that received those letters. And what they were for whatever was detailed in that letter. And they were for specific things. It wasn't just because they didn't like what the council was saying. It's because they did certain things that the council then council felt went over a line. These people were notified. I believe they had the opportunity to make any kind of representation or appeal against that, and a process has been followed, Madam Mayor. But rest assured, we are all politicians. You know, whichever party that we represent, we always come across people that don't like our opinion, and we do not ban them or try to censor them in that sense. That is the nature of politics. I accept that as leader of the council, and I have done in 10 years of being a councillor, but that isn't the reason they were banned. That each of those people did certain things that crossed the line, and that was why they received a letter. There was a remit to appeal, and that has also gone out to them. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Birch to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could the Cabinet Member for Neighbourhoods please give an update on the Don't Trash Oldham initiative and outline the next steps for moving forward? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Stratton to respond. Whoops.
Officers have prepared a report which is to be presented to Cabinet on the 19th of September, which will explain in full our plans for the next phase of the successful Don't Trash Oldham programme, which has so far resulted in 3,495 streets cleaned, 662 alleyways cleaned, 284 tonnes of waste removed, 361 fixed penalty notices issued where evidence was discovered, and 64 individuals prosecuted at the Magistrates' Court, resulting in fines and associated costs of £28,000. A further 77 cases are pending court consideration, 62,000 conversations on the doorstep with residents highlighting the campaign also took place. Oldham is now a cleaner place than when we started the campaign, and we do not intend to rest on our laurels with more targeted interventions where people continue to break the law, but also support given to those communities that do play their part to ensure the borough reflects what the majority of our residents expect.
Thank you. I call on Councillor McCarran to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can the relevant Cabinet Member please clarify how many households have received the Council Tax Energy Rebate payment and whether there are any plans to help households in the future with the increasing cost of energy? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I call on Councillor Jabbar to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks to Councillor McLaren for his question. The Council has issued payments of £150 to 87,846 households in Oldham. Of those, 58,140 were paid directly into the bank accounts, and 29,706 were issued with vouchers cashable at the post office. Unfortunately, only 84.6% of the vouchers have been cashed, and those households who hasn't cashed the voucher, they will be credited with £150 in their council tax account. In addition, a further 21,559 council taxpayers got discretionary payments, and again, these are being issued through vouchers. Some have been paid through direct debit. 7,639 have been paid directly into the bank account, and 13,920 people have been paid through vouchers. The Council will provide extra support for households, but of course the nature of the support largely depends on what the government will provide, and I hope the Prime Minister, when she speaks tomorrow, will take into account the serious problem people have in Oldham and will be generous in terms of the support they will be issuing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Abraham to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have had lots of casework regarding block gullies to the point where they have become waterlogged and caused flooding into the highways. There is an issue across the borough, as I know colleagues have had similar casework, We have all seen videos and photo evidence of these cases on social media. Therefore, can the relevant Cabinet member please advise how often these gullies are cleaned throughout the borough? Thank you.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Stretton to respond.
Subject to being able to access the gullies, we aim to inspect all roadside gullies a minimum of once per year and in accordance with a scheduled programme. By working to the scheduled programme, the Council is able to work efficiently and ensure that every gully gets visited as quickly as possible. If a block gully is putting a resident's property at risk of flooding, please let us know and we will inspect and arrange for it to be cleared if necessary.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Lancaster to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This meeting falls some 2 months prior to Remembrance, and I am sure many communities across the various towns and villages in our borough are presently making plans for their own local acts of remembrance. With that in mind, my question concerns the Borough Council's preparedness for Remembrance this year. In the civil parish of Saddleworth, several hundred people gather at pots and pans every Remembrance Sunday to observe and participate in the service held there. The Pots and Pans War Memorial, which is a Grade 2 listed structure, is in a poor state, with the plaques on its sides particularly worse for wear, and many names of fallen heroes now having faded away. With the centenary of the laying of the foundation stone being next May, it seems appropriate for restorative action to be taken in the very near future. I understand as well from my group colleague Councillor Arnott that in the township of Royton he too is working on a local war memorial issue. Can the administration please offer the Council's resource to addressing these two specific cases and also report on the Council's work in preparing the borough for Remembrance this year? Thank you.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Stretton to respond.
Preparations for Remembrance Sunday is underway for the 7 services throughout the borough. As far as the question over pots and pans is concerned, the answer is as follows. Officers are aware of the potential issues that have been brought to the Council's attention regarding the plaques and stonework at the Pots and Pans War Memorial. And with this in mind, a specialist has been appointed. They will present us with an updated report to identify what needs to be done to ensure the long-term appearance, safety and features on such an iconic memorial in the Saddleworth district are met. Once the report has been completed, I have asked officers to bring this to my portfolio meeting to discuss in detail the cost, work requirements and any timescales for work to be undertaken. I trust that this answers your question and reassures you that we do take the maintenance of our war memorials seriously to ensure that they do not fall into a state of disrepair.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Alandini to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I realise this was partially covered earlier by a question in the public questions, but it's nice to be on someone's wavelength. Given the current increase in energy prices in the UK, how much is the additional cost to residents of heating their homes compared to what the cost would be under the mine water heating scheme? How many residents in Oldham have been and will be affected by the failure to deliver the scheme? What impact would that scheme, which was first proposed by our group in 2012, have on the town's commitment to a zero carbon future and the economic benefits that will be brought by placing this town at the forefront of an emerging technology? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Jabbar to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks to Councillor Al-Hamdani for his question. The Council is in the process of appointing consultants to prepare outline business case for the Mine Water District Heating Network scheme. This piece of work will be expected to take around 12 months and will both model and cost the scheme and the end prices to businesses and residential customers. As such, no information is available yet on how much the end user on the heating will be paying. So I think you have to wait for that, and I think that's really important. We can't guess at this. It's quite a complicated project. As the town centre residential properties being modelled for connection to the Mine Water District heat network have not yet been built, no existing residents have been affected by the fact that the scheme has not yet been developed it is expected that 2,000 new residential properties will be delivered by the proposed district heating network. The heat network, once built, is expected to save around 2,639 tonnes of CO2 per year. It is hoped that the business case will confirm that residents and businesses connected to the heat network will benefit from a relatively low energy bill, supporting the town centre's jobs and providing affordable warmth. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Goodwin to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could the relevant Cabinet member tell me what help is available to residents in relation to accessing the social security support they are entitled to and deserve?
Thank you. I call on Councillor Brownridge to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not actually the relevant Cabinet member, but I have got the answer. Help is available in a number of ways. Residents claiming council tax reduction from the council are advised in their entitlement letters of any state benefits they've not yet claimed. Residents calling to access Oldham requiring assistance to claim state benefits and or council tax reduction are assisted in this by our Do It Online team. Residents calling with regards to council tax or other debts or concerns, either through the council tax line or helpline routes, are provided with advice and guidance as to what is available and, if appropriate, signposted to the support and inclusion team who can assist with claims. Council's Welfare Rights team also assists residents in identifying potential entitlement to and making claims to benefits and supporting appeals against refusals of claims for state benefits for residents requiring help. Council also supports the Citizens Advice Organisation to provide benefit entitlement advice amongst other support. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I call on Councillor Bashford to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. People might have noticed that work on the restoration of Royton Town Hall is going really well now. And mindful of its iconic and extremely valuable status among Roytoners, we've worked very closely, my Royton colleagues and I, with the Royton Local History Society to make sure that all works are done to an extremely high quality and all its original features are restored. So we can pass this building on, we can increase the status of this lovely building and pass it on to future generations. Would the relevant Cabinet member assist me in my bid to give Royton Town Hall listed status and assign an officer to help me with this application, which I've already started, but I really need some help with? Thank you.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Chadderton to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I thank Councillor Bashforth for his question? Obviously, as a Royton councillor, Royton Town Hall is very close to my heart, and I'm mega proud about Royton Town Hall. It is a key community asset, both for Royton but also for Oldham as a whole, and I'm pleased that it's been recognised within the context of our place-based programme. It also brings me a lot of pride that work has begun at pace at Royton Town Hall. Do you know, when I became councillor 10 years ago in Royton, we were talking about the renovation of it then, and it's taken a long time to get here, but we are well on the way with that, and we can see that through the demolition of the rear of the building. And in 12 months' time, it'll be back to open to being a community asset, thankfully, Madam Mayor. Officers have already undertaken an initial high-level assessment on the building, and unfortunately it's not believed that the Royton Town Hall does meet the national criteria for listed building status. However, I'm pleased to confirm that over the coming weeks, officers will undertake a more formal assessment. The position of eligibility will be reviewed through the Corporate Property Board, and I will ensure that officers make contact with Councillor Bashforth and keep him abreast of the situation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Alias to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With hoarding going up across the town centre and residents starting to notice the work is underway on creating a better place, can the relevant Cabinet member provide us with an update on the Labour administration's ambitious plans for the region of town centre?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I call on Councillor Chadderton to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I thank Councillor Alias for his question also? It's great news that our residents recognise the progress in delivering our plans for a thriving town centre, and I'm really pleased to see the hoardings go up. around the town centre. There are various schemes moving from design into delivery now, and this is evidenced by hoardings around Spindles. They went up around TK Matt shortly, but over the past week or so, they've also gone up behind Debenhams as well. But there's also cranes and scaffolding at locations across the borough. Regeneration plans are not just about investment in new and existing building, but it's also about creating real and meaningful change for our residents and business within Oldham. Our ambitious plans for a thriving town centre will unlock millions of pounds worth of investment to create more than 2,000 new homes in Oldham town centre, 1,000 new jobs and 100 new apprenticeship opportunities. The programme has already successfully secured millions of pounds of external funding through the Towns Fund, Future High Street Fund, and will continue to seek out and apply for further funding opportunities to complement and reduce the demand on public funds. There are two main projects in flight to provide you with a complete update this evening, but we're committed to delivery, as well as being years of discussions and approvals, and our communities deserve to see the plans delivered and operational as soon as reasonably possible to ensure they have a thriving town centre, new homes to live in and new opportunities to work. We're equally conscious of ensuring our residents, local businesses and local communities benefit from the regeneration plans, and we are monitoring progress closely, ensuring value for money and social value is embedded in every project, with an annual progress report being discussed recently at Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I call upon Councillor McManus to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 13th of May this year, I tasked our group researchers to find out how much council tax was generated from my ward's residents and any spending and investment sent back directly to OMBC, within the ward, within the national financial year. Unfortunately, I was informed that council tax is not actually recorded by ward and neither is spending and investment, but however, this was available in 2016. For transparency's sake, it's important that residents of our borough know where their council tax money is being spent across our various parishes and townships. Furthermore, for the council to truly act in the interests of the borough at large, all communities aren't to receive adequate investment for the tax their residents pay in. With that in mind, can the administration please outline how much council tax is raised per ward per year and how much of that tax is invested per ward? Also, will the administration further commit to publishing this information annually for all the residents of Oldham? Thank you.
Thank you. Call upon Councillor Jabbar to respond.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your question. Look, the situation is right that we don't record council tax by ward. So that's a fact. So I haven't got that information to give you. But here's the issue. The issue is you saying that we record the amount of council tax each ward pay, and then accordingly we provide the investment into that ward. Well, it just simply cannot work like that. You know, we're a complicated local authority with statutory responsibility. So if I tell you that our revenue budget over 40% is actually spent on something like 6,500 people. These are people, adult social care and children in need. Then how does what you're suggesting works? This is a responsibility that we have statutorily. It's a statutory responsibility that we have. So therefore, your thinking and logic just simply won't work. I'm happy if you want to sit down and go look at the council tax revenue. By the way, that's the only one stream of the total budget. So the other streams are business rates, government grants, and fees and charges. So you can't just take one element of a complicated budget. With the local authority, we have massive and complex services that we have to provide by law. And if you're suggesting what I did, then tell me what happens, right, if there is a child who comes in and needs support, and we need to find secure accommodation. But by the way, that ward that child comes from hasn't paid enough council tax into their coffers. So what do we do? Or if there's an elderly person that requires residential care, and that ward that she comes from or he comes from hasn't paid enough taxes, what do we do? I'm afraid your understanding of local government finance is limited, and that's being plied. And if you want to talk to me about it, or officer, I'll make that available. But please don't make this kind of suggestion without understanding the responsibility we have as a council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Regrettably, we've actually run out of question time, so we need to move on now. The next item on the agenda is Cabinet minutes. Questions on Cabinet. I call on Councillor Chadderton to move, Councillor Jabbar to second, that the Council notes the minutes of the Cabinet are circulated.
Move, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That's been moved. Do any members who are not Cabinet members wish to ask a question on the Cabinet minutes? Councillor Bownridge.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I just want to query, I'm shown as not being in attendance on the 17th of June, and I'm pretty certain I was there, so it's just to raise a query about whether it's not been recorded accurately. That's all, thank you.
Councillor Woodbine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know what the agenda item is on the Cabinet minutes. It's the item about spindles. I was just wondering, Madam, it's the 25th of July minutes. I don't know what page it is in the Green Book. It's just the Cabinet minutes. Page 96. Sorry, Madam Mayor. My question is, very simply, about where the civic offices will be in the Spindles development and how they will look for council members. And as well, I think Shelley will kill me for asking this question, is the branding on the front of the civic section of the building. Could we not have the borough coat of arms rather than the Oldham Council logo? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and can I thank Councillor Woodbine as well. The civic part of where we move once this is demolished, we're not moving into Spindles. There's no civic section in Spindles. That's not the plan. The plan will be that the civic building will be the old public library on Union Street. So we move down there. So the Spindles is not designed for us. The Spindles will be designed for officers who are based in part of this section of the building, and then the tower building, they move into Spindles, but we don't move into Spindles. As a group, we move into the old public library. In terms of design, we've still got quite a way yet. I don't think it's due to complete for another 2 years at the moment, but certainly on design we'll be consulted on, but there will be a place dedicated for the coat of arms, so rest assured, Councillor Woodbine, that will be there.
I owe an apology to Councillor Gloucester and Councillor Kenyon. I completely... no, Councillor Gloucester.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. After that revelation about we're moving the chamber to the library, because nobody on this side knows anything about that.
So can I just say one thing, because I did see some of your shocked faces, but obviously you don't read our press release or the Oldham Times, because it has been detailed in the Oldham Times quite recently that we are moving over. So that's not brand new information. And it has, in fact, it's actually been on the Council Weekly Briefing as well. So
no, it has not.
If I'd known that none of you known, I would have made such a much more big thing about it. I thought you already knew, but yes, it has been reported on before.
No. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Right, what's my revelation? Ah, yes. Water and wastewater services, Madam Mayor, which is item 9, page 82. A decision was taken to award a contract for provision of water and wastewater services. It was noted that the council was paying out of contract rates and that the decision to award the contract would save £51,000 a year. How long had the council been paying out of contract rates for, and why was a proposal not put forward before the council went out to contract and started paying these additional fees? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Stretton to respond. Councillor Jabbar.
I think, Madam Mayor, this report, when went to Cabinet, was under my name, so I think that's why it's been allocated to me. So I'll answer it, Chris, if you don't mind. Thank you for your question. The water service industry in England was deregulated on 1st of April 2017. Oldham Council have been paying deemed rates since 1st of April 2017 when the supplier changed to Water Plus. Consequently, all of Oldham Council's commercial supplies were placed with Water Plus on deemed out-of-contract rates and conditions. At the point of deregulation in England, United Utilities were instructed to transfer all non-domestic water accounts to a new supply company, Water Plus. The water industry was in some disarray at the start of the deregulation, with multiple new supply companies being created to take advantage of the new market. At this time, consensus in the industry and advice given by the Association of Greater Manchester Authorities was not to enter a contract and to wait until water industry had settled down and reliable supply had been established. So there's a long answer. Part of the reason for this advice was the potential cost saving would be minimal in the opinion of the potential risk associated with entering a bad contract. Most cost of water, circa 93%, are set by United Utilities. Only 7% are subject to competition because of the selected supply deregulation. In 2020, the water market had stabilized, and at this, the City Council carried out a procurement exercise. On completion of this, they offered to extend access to other local authorities. The opportunity was then discussed at AGMA and a group energy manager meeting, and the council had then taken decision to move forward with the procurement. So basically, there was issues with supplies, and we wanted to wait until the position was established, and then we went forward after receiving guidance. Thank you.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Kenyon to ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is regarding page 96, 25th of July, item 13, creating a better place, update on the Spindles redevelopment. The demolition of the future TJ Hughes site, one of the first phases of development, was expected to start in July but was delayed. Given the ongoing cost increases in energy and construction materials and the expected future rates of inflation and therefore cost of borrowing, could the Cabinet member responsible please detail the impacts of this delay will have on costs for the development? Given that the development has started with a delay, what guarantees can the Cabinet member offer that there will be no further delays, and what provision has been made for cost increases from further delays? No one would want a prime location in the centre of Oldham to be delivered over budget and late. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Chatterton to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I thank Councillor Kenyon for his question? While there was a delay to the physical demolition of the external facade, that was due to diversion of an electrical cable, which has now been confirmed by Electricity North West. The demolition has commenced inside with internal decommissioning, strip out and removal of internal walls. So the programme included periods of flexibility and parallel activities to allow for slippage and acceleration across the different elements of the development. So at the moment, we are still on track in our original timescales. The impact of inflation and other financial matters post-COVID and post-Brexit were considered very early by the project team, and therefore the project also continues to be within budget allocation. There is a monthly monitoring meeting regarding this, given, as Councillor Kenyon referenced, this is a high-profile project, and given rising inflation, issues around the supply chain, we are conscious that we may come further down the line and issues may arise. So we are keeping on top of that, a monthly meeting, and this is also was discussed quite robustly at the recent scrutiny committee as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any more questions? If not, we'll move on to item 9 on the agenda. It's item 9 on the agenda, but before I ask members to speak, can I remind all members there's a 30-minute time limit in this section, with one motion having 3 amendments. I call on Councillor Chatterton to move and Councillor Dubar to second the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I rise to move the motion. We touched on this previously this evening, in relation to Councillor Sykes' comment to me as part of leader questions, and it's in relation to the cost of living crisis. And the reality for many of our residents in Oldham is stark. Whether you measure this in relative terms or absolute terms, there are more children in Oldham living in poverty than any other borough in Greater Manchester. 15.7% of our households are fuel poor and at high risk from rising energy prices. This is the second highest figure across GM. And we all know that unemployment rate in Oldham is higher than the national average across England. Oldhamers are struggling at the minute. Inflation is at the highest point in a generation and continuing to rise and set to into the new year. There are also rising prices at the supermarket and the petrol pump, and also issues around people's energy bills have gone up. One family making the choice between feeding their children and heating their home is one too many. One elderly person sat on their own in the cold is one too many, and one care leaver trying to make their own way in life but worried about falling into future debt is one too many. The Council needs to be honest about the nature of the task we are faced with, but also be ambitious in our response. This cost of living crisis is an emergency. It represents a very real threat to the way of life for many people in Oldham. But don't just take my word for it. Listen to some of the things that our residents have told our engagement team who are out door knocking every single day, Madam Mayor. One resident was a pensioner who told our teams in March that they cannot afford to put the heating on, that their savings have all gone and they're now getting into debt. Another person was a single parent to a toddler who was struggling to afford clothes for their little one, and it got to the point where they were embarrassed to send their toddler to nursery because their toddler was always in the same clothes. And another resident told our team that had their last slice of bread the night before and they had no more money for the rest of the week. They told our team that they were literally choosing between heating and eating. And those are actual stories in Oldham in 2022 that people live like that. And for a lot of us in this chamber, we don't live like that, but we knock on those people's doors and we see that poverty. And it's appalling the way that some people are forced to live at the moment. And this is only going to get worse over the coming months. And thankfully, we do have our engagement team. And our engagement team, do support our residents. They arrange the support, they signpost these, the ones have reference, but also many more every day to the right services. And I'm not saying this to, for some kind of pat on the back or to say how wonderful our engagement teams are, but they are wonderful and they do a great job. But I'm saying this and I'm raising this because these are our residents. These are the people that elected us to this job, and these are the people, who we serve day in, day out as leaders of this town. And we must act on this, and we must do something for them, Madam Mayor. While the government has been nowhere to see for the past 2 months, the two candidates for Prime Minister have been in a protracted race to the bottom, it feels like. People are struggling and people have been looking for leadership. And Oldham Council will step up and we will show that leadership, and over the coming weeks we are going to announce what we will do in response to the cost of living crisis. I do welcome the fact that we have a new Prime Minister. Given the Conservative government has presided over a decade of austerity, decline and pushing more and more children in poverty, I remain to be convinced that the new PM will meet the scale of emergency before us. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chadderton. I'll call upon Councillor Jabbar to second the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I find myself wholeheartedly agreeing with the leader in terms of what she said in her speech. I'll try not to repeat everything what she said, Madam Mayor, but we all know the reality of the situation here in Oldham. Many people are really struggling to survive because of the increase in inflation, but mainly because of the increase in energy cost. I've been talking to lots of residents in my ward, Madam Mayor, and things are really hard. And sadly it seems it's about to get even more worse. And can I share with you, Madam Mayor, a story about a resident that I spoke to recently. She's a single mother with 2 kids, and with a monthly income from her benefit, £1,013. That's everything. Her energy cost was, before the increase, £130, and now it's increased to £240. A massive increase of £110 per month. And this has a very significant difference in their disposable income for that family. And the support that the government is given through the energy rebate is nowhere near enough to cover for the additional cost she's facing through the increase in her energy bill. And on top of that, you got the increase in food and other essentials, and she's genuinely struggling. And I try to provide her with some support that we can offer, but ultimately, Madam Mayor, there's a real reduction in her household income because of the additional cost, mainly through energy. Now, Madam Mayor, just look at this for a moment. How did we find ourselves in this position? We found in this decision because the Conservative government deliberately chose to not replace the gas storage facility that we had. They cut back on investment in insulating homes. And what they're doing, and the new Prime Minister repeated this, Madam Mayor, is that they're not prepared to put windfall tax on the massive profit these energy companies are making at this very difficult times. So it's unbelievable that this government has protected the profit of energy companies, and Liz Truss has indicated that she has no intention of bringing a windfall tax. This government has so far not provided adequate support to people who are really struggling. And as I said, I've given you an example of my constituents earlier. We know that nationally, Labour Party has proposed to freeze energy prices for families this winter. It will use windfall tax on energy companies' profit. Our policy is very clear, Madam Mayor. We're told that the new Prime Minister is going to make an announcement of package of support. Well, we'll have to see what they are going to be saying. But I just hope that it's something sensible and something reasonable that people who are genuinely struggle can benefit from. In Oldham, we'll do whatever we can to support people who need our support in this real, genuinely challenging time. We know that many times people come to us for support. And during the COVID period, Madam Mayor, Oldham Council stood up and provided frontline services to help many people during the crisis. And we hope that this time again, in any way that we can, we'll be there to support people. But at this time of national crisis, we need our central government to give us the appropriate funding so that we can support struggling families.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
There is an amendment, and I call on Councillor Quigg to move and Councillor Sharp to second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is a very, very difficult time for everybody, regardless of income and where you live. Because if you look at the price of gas, commodities, whether it's wheat, grain, etc., all have gone up. And gas prices in particular have gone up 635% across Europe since this time last year. But within the motion, there is no mention of why that's happened. And let's be clear, that's happened because of an invasion by the Russian Federation to the Republic of Ukraine, which by any stretch of the imagination is an illegal annexation of sovereign territory of another nation. Whether we like it or not, we have become over-dependent on foreign gas from despots and dictators instead of looking to secure energy independence at home. And that's because of all the motions that you've been putting down in the past, whether it's climate emergency, green levies for this, green levies for that. It's all coming home to roost because at the end of the day, this rush to net zero has no in-between point. And that means that we're now in this position where when the wind doesn't blow, the turbines don't turn. If the sun doesn't shine, the sun doesn't produce electricity. And that means it costs money. And it costs a vast amount of money to fund. It costs higher taxes, more money out of the bills. And for example, green levies cost £400 per household each year. That's at the moment, and that's before any other rise. So it should be welcome that we should be looking to scrap these green levies, and it should be putting money back in people's pockets to try and cushion some of the absolute disgusting behaviour that's come from Russia, and it's holding to ransom of the Western Europe in particular, where cold weather requires more gas and requires further heating. But closer to home, let's look at what this council has done. Constantly increased council tax, Constantly increased the levy by the Mayor. Mr Burnham's always too keen to front all these wonderful schemes, but he doesn't tell you how you pay for them. He always pays for them with higher council tax. But of course, there's always the icing on the cake, which again is always the point where these green levies cost more money for schemes such as the CAS tax, which has been mentioned earlier tonight. But also the point being is that it's impacting families at the bottom end, because people who start out for work, who have got a new van or it's a mid-range van, will be hit with a tax. And that was your policy. It was your policy that was going to hit people with £3,000, all for the sake of net zero. It wasn't our policy, it was yours. And at the end of the day, Madam Mayor, we can either talk it's always government's fault, or we can look to try and do something in this chamber. And this is where the action is, and this is where the power lies. And the power lies with you, Councillor Jabbar. When you keep putting up council tax, that's money out of people's pockets. It's you that makes that decision, it's your administration that makes that decision, not us, you. And the point is that people in this borough can see that you are causing a financial pain through the things that you can control. We can't control what Vladimir Putin's going to do. We can't control what the international gas price is going to do because of various matters that involve financial markets, financial instruments. But at the end of the day, we should be looking what we can do here tonight. And sadly, this motion, which has had to be amended by myself, does not lay any blame except somewhere about an emergency. Well, we're going to have a budget hopefully tomorrow, a financial instrument, whatever you want to call it. And let's hope that some policies do come forward, and let's hope that we do get some help for residents, because that's what matters.
Councillor Quigg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I've been referenced a few times. I'd like to come back there if it's possible, please.
Afterwards, please. Put your name up to speak.
Yeah.
Mr. Sharp.
Yeah. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to second the amendment as printed and will speak very briefly to it. This is a truthful amendment. It's not designed to rewrite and change the original officer-written motion, but to put forward other contributing factors which are at play in the current climate. It suits the Labour administration to whip up tension and bash the government, whilst failing to acknowledge the part that they've played over the last 40 or so years of running the borough into the ground and ensuring we are unprepared to face challenges. Oldham is a poor borough. I see this every day in my own ward, and I acknowledge that more does need to be done by this administration to help struggling families. But in all honesty, is it the best the Labour administration can come up with to support Oldhamers to suggest that holiday activities need to be more ambitious and a cost of living summit to help develop ideas? So please tell us, how are these going to affect and support the day-to-day lives of Oldhamers? As always, there is no mention of the help the Conservative government is already providing to families. £400 to every single household to help with energy costs, £650 cost of living payments for those on means-tested benefits, plus a £150 disability cost of living payment, and £300 winter fuel payment for pensioners, all of which has been listed in detail in the amendment. The new Prime Minister has already made it clear previously and reiterated today at Prime Minister's questions that more needs to be done, and I do look forward to seeing the support package tomorrow in more detail. However, more locally, let's not forget the election promise this Labour administration made to pay every household £600 to help with energy bills. That seems to have disappeared. The administration need to commit tonight to not increase council tax this year, because in case they've forgotten, we already pay one of the highest in Greater Manchester. Of course, this amendment will be voted down tonight, but to finish up, I think this administration needs to look a little bit closer to home, roll up their sleeves and do a better job themselves instead of nitpicking, whinging and moaning about how bad things are when they are the ones in a position to do something about it. Thank you.
Move to the vote, Madam Mayor. Move to the vote.
I think Councillor Jabbar has got a point of personal explanation to make.
Can we move to the vote?
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I was accused of putting the council tax up, and I'm responsible for this. So unfortunately, some people in this chamber, they have a very selected understanding of local government finance, and they just pick the point which seems popular. But here's the issue. Eric Pickle, the Secretary of State, who was responsible for government, introduced a cash freeze grant for councils across the country not to increase the council tax. So we were given money not to increase council tax, so we were able to provide key services with that money. Now, recently, Madam Mayor, successive Tory government has allowed what they call corresponding power.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I thought it was to explain his personal situation.
I am explaining it because I was asked. I was repeatedly accused of increasing the council tax, and there's an explanation needed. This current government has produced a corresponding power for local government, and within that, they're allowing a 5% increase in council tax. And by cutting the grants. Now, Madam Mayor, you might remember, as part of the contest for the leadership, Rishi Sunak actually said,
really, how long is it? Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Money away. He was proud of taking money away from the private authorities like Oldham and give the money to Tory councils. That's the reason, Madam Mayor, we had to increase the council tax in Oldham because we endured the 6 biggest cuts in Oldham.
A point of order has been made by Councillor Barnes. Councillor Barnes, please make your point of order.
Thank you. Maybe it's about time Councillor Jabbar stopped ranting and stuck to the point. All we've heard from him is a rant attacking the government. He's responsible.
That isn't a point of order. That's not a point of order, Councillor Barnes. Councillor Oldham.
Yeah, I think mine might be a point of order, Madam Mayor. People have received ASBOs for pointing and shouting in this chamber. I hope that's going to be sent to Mr Jabbar now.
That's not a point of order either. Right, the leader has moved that we go straight to the vote. Does that have the approval?
Madam Mayor.
Is that seconded? Is that seconded, yeah? Right, we go straight to the vote then. No.
Madam Mayor, please can I request a recorded vote?
Right. So, Councillor Quigg, you've got a right to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
We'll keep it brief, please.
I'll keep it to the time limit, Madam Mayor. Councillor Jabbar, I won't go over the old ground, but you sign it off. You produce the budget. You present it here every year that you've been stood here. So it's Councillor Jabbar. Apologies, Councillor Jabbar. You stand there every time you produce a budget, and it's you sign it off. The point is, Madam Mayor, we can either make a decision tonight about what we can do, which is either freeze council tax or stop increasing it, look to make things that matter to people here and make decisions here, about here and for here, or we can keep blaming the government, motion after motion after motion, and do nothing about it. Just writing a letter, it's like Hogwarts. It's like Harry Potter. You keep writing letters and it doesn't achieve anything. What about things that matter here? We need to start taking action here. And I'm sorry, Councillor Chatterton, it's your administration. You're the ones in power. Do something. Instead of having summits, do it. Take action this day. Do something. You keep saying to Liz Truss do something. Well, she is doing something. Within a week of in office, in less than 3 days, she's actually doing something about it. You've had weeks and done nothing about it. It's not as if this inflation suddenly crept up on us. It's been there and we've been talking about it and economists have been talking about it. But the point is that this council chamber keeps refusing to take responsibility, and the administration in particular. And there's no point in us keep putting these motions down unless there's something in them that this council can actually action. And there's nothing in this motion that actually says that, and this is why we've had to put an amendment down. Now, we can either take responsibility, all of us as corporate parents, and do something to help the people of this town, or we don't. And we keep writing letters. And I'm sure Harry Caswell's probably sick of writing letters, but, it doesn't actually achieve anything unless we actually have action. And we've got 3 MPs who should be doing the job. Not necessarily just us, them as well. And they are the ones who are abdicating as much responsibility as this administration. So as far as I'm concerned, Madam Mayor, I think that this amendment, I hope people can support it, because it's about this town and what we can do in this council chamber. And if we keep pushing this out and saying it's nothing to do with us, Gov, let's talk about something else, let's write a letter, and then it gets parked and nothing gets done, then this will not help people who are struggling. And this is where we need to start coming back to basic principles. And whether we can either keep talking and keep going on, and there's enough hot air generated in this chamber, and I'm generating it here tonight, it doesn't actually help people. It's about action, and I hope, Councillor Chatterton, that there is a package that comes from the government, and it is hopefully on the way. But to declare an emergency doesn't actually mean you're taking action. Actually do something. Make a difference. When Councillor Jabbar, when you come to present the budget of this council, take action. You do not have to increase council tax. You do not have to cut services. You have to make sure the books balance. And that is down to this administration. It's not down to the opposition. They present their amendments or their alternative. It's down to yourselves. And there is a complete lack of responsibility. And it just will not help the people of this town if we keep putting council tax up, the thing that we can control. And if we do not do something now, then we'll be here again next month talking about the same thing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chatterton. Just to reply.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I mean, the absolute irony of Councillor Sharp, a Conservative Party politician, accusing us on this side of whipping up division when all Councillor Sharp and her group have done over the past 4 months is absolutely whip up division in this town. Sometimes it's like going through the looking glass in here. The reality is, and the Conservatives talk about the invasion of, the Ukraine by Russia, and all of us are horrified by what goes on and what Russia have done to those poor people in Ukraine and what they've devastated that country. But we only get 6% of our gas from Russia. 6% of our gas, and we've got the highest gas prices in Western Europe. So that tells you a story, doesn't it? Choices have been made over recent years, and that is why it's gone up as it has. And now, Councillor Quiz said Liz Truss is doing something. But she hasn't announced anything. I assume it is going to come tomorrow. It's not going to be a budget, is it? But I assume it will be an announcement. But unless she puts a windfall tax on those energy companies, all it is a loan.
Yep.
So she may freeze our energy prices for 6 months or whatever she chooses to do as new Prime Minister. But the reality is the likes of Shell and other energy companies earn billions and billions and billions of pounds every single year in profit, and they should have a windfall tax on them. And if the Conservative government choose not to do it, then all it is a loan. And the same with the £400. Councillor Sharp talks as though it's a gift. It's not a gift. We've got to pay it back in our future bills. These are loans that are given to us. I do agree partially with Councillor Quigg on council tax. Council tax is a fundamentally unfair system that is not fit for purpose in the modern day. It is not right that in Oldham we have such high levels of poverty and deprivation, but yet our council tax is vastly higher than leafy constituencies of Hampshire and Gloucestershire and other areas. And it's not because we can increase it. And do you know what? We have to increase it because we do not get the level of money that we did. We've lost nearly 50% of our revenue budget. And if I was to stand here today and commit to a council tax freeze, it'd be foolish. And it would be irresponsible, Madam Mayor. We don't know what funding we're going to get from the government in the local government spending review in December. If they cut our budget again, then we will likely have to increase council tax. And the vast majority of council tax, and Councillor McManus raised where it goes before, but the places it goes to is adult and children's social care. So us not increasing council tax affects those services. Because you know what? It doesn't go on the likes of parks and things like that. Environmental services are a tiny part of our budget. It goes on safeguarding our old people and safeguarding our kids. And it'd be irresponsible for me to now to commit to that. Because if we don't do it, that has to come out elsewhere. And there's some really difficult choices that have got to be made. But the reality is, it's a Conservative Party government that have overseen deprivation in this country to a level we haven't seen probably since before the First or Second World War, Madam Mayor. And that's not because of me, that's because of ideological choices that are made by a very, very right-wing Conservative Party government. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Does Council agree the amendment? Those in favour? Those against? The amendment is lost. We've done quite badly on time with that one. Does anybody wish to go straight to the vote?
Madam Mayor, reading through the lines, are you now telling me our 30 minutes are done?
No, not the 30 minutes. I'm saying, just for the sake of progress, we go straight to the vote on the
Oh,
motion.
how long is left?
Have to do the main motion.
5 minutes on this section. I'll move to the vote, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. Seconded?
Seconded.
Yeah. So we agreed on the motion. Those in favour for? The original motion, yeah. Those against? No, the amendment was fallen, yeah. Any abstentions? Right, its motion's carried. Right, so we go on to motion 2. I call on Councillor Bashford to move and Councillor Machine to second the motion. And like I said, if you can just please keep to time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Madam Mayor. Just seemed rather mundane this after that last debate, but I think that's the thing, isn't it? Some things that appear to be small are very important to people, and I think this is one of them. I don't think there can be many of us in certain parts of the town, or perhaps even all over the borough, who have been getting lots and lots of complaints about fireworks going off in the night or all hours of the day, almost every day, almost every evening. In fact, as I was writing this, well, thinking about it, they were going off. And we think we know where they're coming from. A lot of our residents think they know where they're coming from. We've actually been out. In fact, I've had late night discussions with Councillor Stretton when these things have been going off, attempting to pinpoint them and going out in the car. I know Amanda, Councillor Chatterton, actually went out in the middle of the night one night onto Clayton Plainfields to try and find out where these things were coming from. But the trouble with them is that once somebody sneaks out in the night and sets them off, they're gone and you can't find them. So unless we had somebody on every street corner waiting to find them, we're going to be very difficult to track these down. But we can't just say, well, because we can't find them, we can't do anything. As a council, as councillors, we're all probably very well briefed on what the law is around the purchase and the selling of fireworks, and indeed what you can set them off and the various types of fireworks. But those laws that govern that are just not working. I mean, you just need to dip on the internet, go do it now, and you'll be able to buy boxes of industrial grade fireworks and have them sent straight to your house without any checks on why you're using them, or how old you are, or anything like that. So you can actually just pick these things up ad hoc, and people are doing, and they're setting them off in the middle of the night. I mean, no properly organised firework displays are great. I think we all like them. But people just setting them off ad hoc is just not accepted now. We need to do something about it. But we also need to be realistic about this as well, because as I've just said, unless we have a council officer on every corner or a police officer on every corner, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's the police that will need to take legal action, then we're struggling. But this motion does suggest a few things that we can do as a council, and that we might be able to help with the to help stop these things being sold as they are at the moment. We can also look at how properly we will get people to let us know when they're being set off. We can also make it absolutely clear to event organisations and event organisers that remind them of the rules, get officers to go around, and just make them absolutely aware that we're determined to stamp this out with the methods we have. But unfortunately, we are going to have to go to the government for some things, because we don't make the law, the government make the law, and there are some things in this motion that we need the government to act on. Now, some people might say, well, we all have different views on what fireworks. Some people say, let's ban them all together. But there was a petition a couple of years ago, about 300,000 signatures went to the government. The government declined the banning on the grounds of economic reasons. And quite right, one that the sale of these things might go underground if they were completely banned altogether. So I can see the lights come on. So the measures that we've put out in this motion, I think, will certainly help us to deal with this problem. So I would just urge everybody to please support this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Nashim, we are very short of time. Would you be prepared to just formally second the motion?
Yes, yeah. I was just going to reiterate what Councillor Steve Ashford was going to say. Thank you. I'll just second that motion.
There is an amendment on this one, and I call on Councillor Woodbine to move and Councillor McManus to second. Are you prepared just to... All right. You withdrawing the amendment?
I do, yes.
Right, okay. So we can just go straight to...
Amendment, there's two more amendments. Amendment 2.
Oh, is this? Oh, there's two, sorry.
Amendment 2.
Yeah, got it. There's an amendment to Councillor Quigg to move and Councillor Arnott to second. Are you also prepared just to formally move and second the amendment?
I'll speak briefly, Madam Mayor, and then I'll move to the vote, if you don't mind. I'll speak briefly and move to the vote. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Bashford is absolutely right. People are ringing and getting annoyed about this, and it's getting worse and worse. And I've had telephone calls at 11:15, 12:45 from residents who are really upset about this. And one resident did contact me and say that people are absolutely fed up about this, that they're getting to the point where they will actively go out there and search for themselves as a street patrol, which obviously I did report to the authorities. But part of the problem is that things aren't getting very much better because council officers and Greater Manchester Police are seemingly not working together, hence why we're putting this amendment down. And of course, as I say in the amendment, Madam Mayor, there is powers there to act. We can use them, and let's try and do something about it, and the licensing committee in particular. But of course, as Councillor Bashford has pointed out, the internet is a massive market for this, and it's completely unregulated. So, of
Point of order, Madam Mayor. We're now at the end of 30 minutes for this section. All 4 group leaders sat in a meeting and agreed the timings for this. So you need to put stuff to the vote, otherwise you're going to break the rules. We all agreed only yesterday.
Yeah. Councillor Arnott, can you formally just second the amendment?
Second, move to vote, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So, amendment. So, those in favour of the amendment? Those against?
Those against? The amendment.
Any abstentions?
The amendment's lost.
The amendment's lost.
Amendment 3, move, seconded.
So, we've actually got a third amendment on this one.
Happy to move, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor Gloucester?
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So we now go straight to the vote on the original motion.
No, on the amendment.
On the amendments. I thought we'd just done that.
No, it's Amendment 3. So, those in favour of Amendment
Right.
3?
So those in favour of Amendment 3, those for? Those against? That's carried. So now we're in a bit of a dash.
The motion as amended.
So the motion is amended. Those for? Those against? Abstentions? It's carried as amended. Thank you. Making me old, all them amendments. So we've got some... Right, thank you for that, everyone. We're now on to item 10 on the agenda. And may I remind members about this section at this meeting affords 10 minutes to each opposition motion, and we will be keeping within those time limits, including amendments. I call on Councillor Byrne to move and Councillor Woodbine to second the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Knocking the place apart, thank you. The opposition motion is that can this council be brave? Can this council do something itself? And I want to say that the council knows that it has the power, this council has the power to act on the reduction of speed on country roads from the national speed limit of 50/60 miles an hour, which has remained in place since 1977. I want the council to note that the dangers of rural driving are 10 times more people die on rural roads than on motorways. It's twice as likely for motorcyclists to be killed on a rural road than an urban one. It is 3 times more likely for cyclists to be killed on a rural road than an urban one. Last year, 66 horses died and 129 were injured, the British Horse Society said. I want the council to recognise that local authorities have the power to change the speed limit, but until now they have done this piecemeal in response to traffic accidents. The 60-mile-an-hour default limit is inappropriate for most minor rural roads, and those attempting to speed on narrow and winding lanes at this speed is reckless. British Cycling, the sport's governing body, urged the government to cut the speed limit on thousands of miles of roads without white centre markings. The council recognised that more houses are being built in Oldham for families, and many are in semi-rural areas on brownfield sites, and the safety is needed for the children who need to navigate these roads to schools and buses, many of these roads without any footpaths. A petition was recently presented to Democratic Service for just this in my Saddleworth North ward. I want council to resolve to exercise its own power, Oldham Council's power, to change these particular speed limits to more realistic speeds for the time we now live in. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Woodbine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to second this and start by saying that the Labour administration amendment has no relation to the motion itself, which is specifically about the rural roads in Oldham, most of which are admittedly in the civil parish of Saddleworth. Many roads come to mind when I consider the contents and intentions of this motion. I spend most of my time as a councillor challenging the substandard responses I receive from officers regarding situations which residents consider serious and which they are always quick to dismiss. Sometimes, just sometimes, I can overcome this and convince the officers to do what they otherwise said was impossible. This motion aims to address the situation on specific highways in the borough, which are currently national, and reduce the speed limit on them to ensure the safety of all users, from cyclists to equestrians, from motorists to pedestrians. The amendment suggests that this council does not take the safety of its residents and visitors seriously, and it further suggests that they are dismissing the concerns of those who have campaigned for the said reduction on certain roads. Was presenting the petition which Councillor Byrne just referenced to the council at the last meeting pointless? Labour are once again sending out the message to the Metropolitan Borough that they are going to completely ignore their genuine concerns for the safety of themselves and, more importantly, their children and grandchildren. I would encourage all elected members to support this, to reduce the speed limits on rural roads in the borough and support the cause of complete safety. A particular example comes to mind, which I raised, and interventions to lower the speed limit were refused by highways because it would set a precedent. That is not good enough, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. There's an amendment on this one, and I call on Councillor Bashford to move and Councillor Pythian to second. And they are conscious of time.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah. Councillor Byrne, this is, you know, we can't disagree with the problems with speeding, but I think speeding on a rural road can't be isolated from speeding for the roads that lead to it and lead from it and come into the urban areas. And as every one of us knows, it's a massive problem at the moment. I really don't understand what's going on in people's minds, because some of the roads, you hear it said they're like racetracks, but I tell you, they are. And a lot of these roads have got 20-mile-an-hour speed limits on them, 30. People know what the speed limits are, and people ought to be taking this a bit more responsibly. But again, this is one of these situations where we could reduce the speed limit on every single road in the borough. That won't solve the problem, because how on earth are we going to enforce it? We've hardly any police to enforce it. Things like speed cameras have to go through rigorous criteria from the Department of Transport. I understand they are reviewing that, but I don't know what the results are yet. We can't put speed humps on every road, particularly the main roads, and a lot of people don't like it. So I think we could dare to be brave, but really we need to dare to be wise about something like this. And cutting the speed limits by themselves will not solve what is an horrendous, dangerous problem. And I fully agree with you. And I take this very seriously. But I think it's a case of saying, well, cut the speed limits, that's the problem solved. And it isn't. We need to look at this in the round. And it can't just be rural roads. It needs to be all roads, because they all lead to each other. So I think, while it's very well-meaning motion, I don't think it's practical, and it's something where we could put this into motion, not do anything about it, and you know, it wouldn't help anybody there. So that's why we put this amendment in. So mindful of time, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Councillor C. Pythian to second. Please keep it brief, please.
Can I just second that, please, Madam Mayor?
Thank you, appreciated. Councillor Gloucester's indicated he wants to speak on the amendment.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, thanks. If I could just speak briefly on the amendment. Just in relation to the correction that needs to be made, because the national speed limit isn't 50 and 60, it's 60 on a single carriageway and 70 on a dual carriageway. So that's incorrect in the original motion. But I would say that as a group, we support the amendment, but we do not support the original motion, because the original motion, unfortunately, is theoretically just not capable of being achieved. And in fairness, Councillor Woodbine, who is a member of the Traffic Regulation Order Committee with me, should understand about traffic regulation orders and what is required to achieve this. So, unfortunately, we can't support the motion, but we will support the amendment. But I would also point out one last thing, Madam Mayor, is, you know, if you can't support 20's plenty, which is something that we brought in for residential streets in Oldham, and that wasn't supported, then, you know, why this? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Lancaster, you're out of time. Councillor Byrne, do you wish to reply, but could you keep it brief, please?
I will keep it brief, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. My motion really was to get this council to understand that there are certain things that we can do. We can do ourselves. We don't have to wait for Greater Manchester or for a national change. I can take Councillor Gloucester to a 50-mile-an-hour sign, which is still there. That's why I put 50 to 60. No, I can take them. It was done in all seriousness, unless I'm towing a trailer. That's not recommended round Thurston Clough, I can tell you. So that was why I wanted the council to recognise that we don't have to follow here. We can lead in certain situations. It may be where Councillor Bashford is suggesting throughout the borough, but I was homing in on rural roads, because there we have no footpaths, and we do have a speed limit which is reckless. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Bashford, you do have a a right to reply, but can I just...
Can I just be very brief, Madam
No,
Mayor?
very, very brief.
Okay. No, it won't.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. We've gone past 10 minutes on this
Yeah.
item. We all
Yeah.
agreed. We'd go to the
Yeah.
vote. Wouldn't allow any more
Thank you,
speakers.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
You've got to stick to the rules, please.
Vote on the amendment.
Right, so we're now going to go to the vote on the amendment. All those in favour?
The amendment.
Amendment, yeah. Those against? Abstentions?
Amendment's carried.
So the amendment's carried.
So straight to the vote.
So we're going straight to the vote on this. So we're going to vote on the motion as amended. Those in favour for? Those against? Any abstentions? So the motion as amended has been carried. Thank you. Motion 2, that's Councillor Hamblett to move and Councillor Marland to second the motion. So Councillor Hamblett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise tonight to bring this motion before you and Council. And I know it's been widely discussed this evening, and I'm sure it will be an extremely hot topic, or probably a warm topic anyway, as the weeks and months progress. I think it's sad that in a relatively wealthy country such as ours, fifth, sixth nation, rich sixth nation in the world, desperate measures are being thought up and called for. Madam Mayor, we do have a duty of care to our residents and to ensure warmth and food is given. Surely now the need for our local facilities and public buildings being open and offered as a space for both safety and warmth is needed more than ever. To think in the 21st century daytime, television programmes and game shows are offering to pay people's energy bills as a prize. So you just watched this morning. Yet, I know many of our residents, especially those who are elderly, disabled and on lower incomes, either choose to heat or eat, as we've also discussed this evening. And such decisions will only grow due to the oncoming winter. I know many good folk throughout the borough are wrapping up in duffel coats, blankets, duvets and dressing gowns just to keep warm for fear of turning on the heat and any electricity. Oldham Academy North has been on the BBC today. Their head teacher saying that the pupils going to school to come for warmth and food, which is the only time they get, as families at home are struggling to pay, and that was this morning. We should be offering as much as possible for our residents, old and young, with the support wherever possible. Being offered for such heating, food and advice regarding their bills, we can support them with practical solutions and we can do to help our residents get through the winter months. We do know that some former ministers and a former Prime Minister offer bizarre ideas, putting heat reflectors behind radiators and switching kettle brands to save on pennies or you know, how much it will be off their bills. But I do welcome a fresh change in government and the Conservatives' new PM pledge to help every resident up and down the country in terms of the rising energy prices, though we still actually don't know what the detail is of that and whether or not that will actually happen. But we wait in hope, and our residents do the same. How about them actually offering to support to lower the cost of bills by charging the companies with eye-watering profits, and we can make a real change to our residents to ensure that council buildings are open and provide warmth, welcome and advice to those who visit. I hope the council supports this motion unamended. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Marland to second.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We must give the children of this borough the resources to thrive and not leave them to struggle or be hungry. Instead of investing to ensure that families have adequate support to make certain that their children are fed and clothed, the government continue to support the cut on which these families so heavily rely. So the proposed school meals funding cut will directly impact these children, some of which may already be at an economic and educational disadvantage. It is therefore vital that the government reinstates the uplift for universal credit and extends free school meals to all. I recently visited the Oldham Food Bank and saw firsthand the incredible work and support that they give to many hundreds of residents delivering weekly food parcels.
And it is great to read so many posters and social media communications issued by this council, which are targeted to help those who really need their help. I'm a regular donor to the food bank, but many people and organisations I work with have never even heard of this charity. So, Madam Mayor, I want to challenge this council to do more for the Oldham Food Bank by asking for help from those who can either volunteer their time, support financially, or donate food. We should be asking residents to give a donation of their time or funds, or even just buy a couple of extra food items in their weekly shop. But sadly, I never see this type of communication or request issued by the council. This council should be widely advertising where the existing collection cages are located and on what food items are needed most. And this could easily be achieved through advertising campaigns, Oldham Community Radio, via the I Love Oldham Facebook page, and by more resources and information which can be shared as ward councillors. Also, the council should implement a salary sacrifice scheme so staff could financially assist, and the food bank would have more available funds. You could also ensure that all council offices, places of work and libraries have a food collection cage, so when you pop out to get your own provisions or on a break from work, people can purchase a couple of extra items to help those in need. So we've talked so far many times about heat or eat, and many residents are facing that harsh reality. But the council should be actually doing more in terms of action to resolve this dilemma. The nights are darker and the weather is getting colder, so now it is the time to communicate to residents that warm banks are open and available for use. By extending the opening hours of libraries and allowing community centres to open their doors, everyone in our borough should have a warm place to go to. But not just town centre locations or locations where there is a library, but in every district and in every village in the borough. Everyone who needs to use these places will not want to walk or travel miles to get to a warm place. They will want them in their neighbourhood, at a familiar place that they know and where they will meet with other members of their own community. So, Madam Mayor, it is vital that this council takes action today to do more to meet the residents' needs for food and warmth. So please can I request that this motion is supported and is unamended.
Thank you. There's another amendment on this motion now, and it's Councillor Alias to move and Councillor Birch to second. And if I could advise you both that you've got less than a minute to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with most of what is included in this motion and would like to propose a couple of minor amendments. Just want to say that this amendment seeks to recognise that the Labour administration is already making preparations for warm banks or warm places as winter approaches and as energy bills skyrocket. We've been working on plans to ensure Oldham Borough residents, especially most vulnerable and elderly, have a warm place to go to, and they're put in touch with relevant people or organisations who can help them with their financial issues. Madam Mayor, I'm in total agreement that no one should go cold or hungry in the 21st century. And to do this, we're working with our partners in voluntary and community sectors to make sure our plans maximise benefits for our most vulnerable residents.
Councillor Alias, you've had your minute, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Birch.
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, appreciated. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Alias, for your amendment. Although I actually went to see the public health team earlier this afternoon. They said that they do not have a report on warm banks at present, but this is something that's being considered as part of our cost of living response. So in actual fact, you don't actually have a plan yet. So it's just in thought.
Just a point of clarification, just because every officer of the council hasn't seen a paper doesn't mean there isn't a plan, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Are you done? Yeah. Councillor Alias, you're all right to reply. I just want to...
It's fine, yeah.
That's fine, okay. So
Voting on the amendment.
So we're now voting on the amendment. Those in favour
The amendment.
of the amendment? Yeah. Those against? Any abstentions? Carried? Is that carried, the amendment?
Yeah.
The amendment's been carried.
The motion is amended.
So we're now voting. Yeah, it's done, yeah, it's fine. So,
Just go to the vote.
we're now voting on the motion as amended. Those in favour for? Those against? Any abstentions? So the motion as amended is carried. We now go to motion 3, and I call on Councillor Holbein to move and Councillor Wilkinson to second the motion. And as other members, you know, if you can keep to your time, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep it sweet. Thankfully, this time there's no amendments in this motion. I rise to put our motion forward. Let me first say that I make no apologies for bringing forward this motion. It has been here before. It was voted down last time. The Fails Independent Party, we're committed as a team to push for this motion and to push for justice for the survivors as long as it takes. So even if it does get voted down today, we'll keep coming back. And hopefully, once the power has shifted in this chamber, we'll get somewhere. I'd just like to blunt some answers that are bound to come out before I start my motion. With respect to the Liberal Democrats and their letter they've had from the Home Office, it's not for the opposition to ask the Home Office to come in, and I'm sure if the full council was to ask the Home Office and demand an inquiry, it would be given. And before the Leader of the Council stands up again and makes any faux pas about discussions that she's had with survivors and how it may or may not have affected their lives, I am aware that one of the survivors she spoke to has asked her directly to vote for this because the survivors themselves want a full public independent inquiry into the matter. The review that we received in June highlighted multiple failings, and while we reluctantly accept Greater Manchester Police's Operation Sherwood, which is going after the criminals and the perpetrators, we expect results from that, and for now we'll keep an eye on it and demand to see them results. But an independent public inquiry is needed to look into the council failings. We're now some months, 3 months after the review was published. We've still had no accountability for members or officers at this place. We've no idea if any member or officer of this council has any culpability, and it's still possible that people responsible for these failings are in office or position, and that isn't right. That's what an independent public inquiry needs to find out. These people need to be brought forward, and until we've had that, we can't move on. We would just be closing the door on what's gone before without really addressing it. So I'm asking this council again, and the councillors, to consider the survivors. And I remind them tonight, there are some survivors in here watching you vote. Please let us get to the truth. Voting against this inquiry is in itself a cover-up, I believe. Does voting against it say that some people are scared of what we'll find? That maybe they knew? I'm asking, in particular, the Labour councils, the administration councils, to vote not with your party, or how your leaders ask you to vote tonight, but to vote with your conscience and to vote for what your constituents are going to want, because they're the people that have put you here. And if you don't vote for it, they may be the people that take you away from here. In the last few weeks, I've been contacted by a lot of people who've supported us and are glad that what we're doing in bringing this to the fore and trying to get justice for the victims. One of the people that's contacted me is a lovely Muslim lady who I spoke to a couple of times. She thanked me and she thanked our team and the other people for pushing this, for pursuing the inquiry and fighting for these young and vulnerable girls. She said until an inquiry is done and until all the truth is out, the finger of suspicion falls on her community and it's not fair on her community, and I totally agree. She also asked a question which I'm going to leave with you, and I did debate on not...
You're out of time, Councillor Oldham.
Extension, please.
Extension.
I've got a sentence left that's very important.
You was one of the people who
Okay.
agreed to no extension.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
Listen to second, please.
I second the motion, Madam Mayor. I'll just complete where my colleague, Councillor Holbein, was up to. She asked a question which is somewhat controversial in a way. She asked Brian if the demographics were different, swapped over, and it was young Asian girls being groomed and raped by white men, would the situation still be the same? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right, so that's your contribution, Councillor Wilkinson. Right, thank you. Does any member wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is now a little over 2 months since the assurance review was published. At that council meeting held on the 27th of June this year, I said the review should not be the end of the matter. It should be the beginning. The review was a damning indictment of the failure of vulnerable children by agencies that were meant to protect them. On the 27th of June, I asked what action would be taken against the police officers who had failed Sophie. I am still awaiting a response to that question from both GMP and Andy Burnham. That simply is not good enough. How can the victims of these abhorrent crimes get anything like justice when this Labour administration, now led by Councillor Chatterton, continue to block all attempts to instigate a public inquiry? And what is far worse is that despite being corporate parents, the Labour councillors in this chamber tonight want the town to move on rather than learn from the lessons of the past. Madam Mayor, I have been a corporate parent since 2005, when I moved into housing with Leeds City Council. I am still a corporate parent today, both as an elected member in this chamber and as an employee of Rochdale Borough-wide Housing. And I might add, there is a groundswell of public opinion in this town calling for a public inquiry. Our Labour councillors sat here tonight so tone deaf that they cannot see it for themselves, for they hear the truth, but they cannot see what it means. The truth of the matter is that the Labour councillors who are sat in this chamber tonight are frit. They are more concerned about their own positions than tackling the evil of the gang rape of vulnerable children. What are they afraid of? Who are they trying to protect? Madam Mayor, if the Labour Party was serious about this matter, it would allow sunlight to be the best disinfectant and allow a public inquiry in order to achieve justice for all victims. It saddens me that they cannot see how they are failing the victims time and again. And let me be clear, Councillor Fithian, this is not about cost, it's about victims, and you should hang your head in shame that you think it's about cost. It's not, that just isn't right. You can't do that with victims. A public inquiry should be the starting point whereby the council does not set its own terms of reference. The terms of reference should be set by government. How can we as a town move forward when we have not yet learned the lessons of the past? That is why the cross-party steering group should work alongside the public inquiry as a conduit between the inquiry team, council officers and elected representatives. That is why I am proud to continue the fight for a public inquiry so that justice can finally be achieved for all victims of these abhorrent crimes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. I've got Councillor Chatterton and Councillor Alamdine who's indicated they want to speak.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I suppose it's more a point of, you know, personal clarification. I mean, everybody knows we are going to vote against this motion. We voted against it last time, and, you know, we're open about what our position is on this. And Councillor Barnes and I suppose Councillor Hoban have said it. Councillor Barnes and Councillor Hoban have said it. And we're all elected, and the reality is, you know, I make a decision and we make a decision on what we choose to do. And of course, you know, I'm not the judge and jury about whether that'll be a successful decision or not. And next May, the people of Brighton will decide whether we should do that or not. So just in terms of, I mean, the video that has circulated on Facebook. So, as I said there, I have spoken to some victims. So, sit down. So, I mean, the video that circulated, I would never ever try to dismiss those women's experiences. And, you know, I've been really open and honest about both the failings of the council and the failings of the police. And whatever action we take now, we can never ever rectify what happened to those women and those girls. And there's no point during being leader of this council, I've tried to defend something that is indefensible, because you just cannot. But my point at the last meeting was about, this is so complex and this can be so nuanced. And about when I said, you know, it's not for me to say that this destroyed their lives. And some victims are survivors, are really open and honest about how they talk very freely about how it destroyed their lives. But some other victims I've spoken to don't like to use that language, because they think some of that pushes back onto their abuser and takes power away from them. They try to think about how they've moved on, but obviously it's a really, really complex issue with a lot of very, you know, vulnerable and complex individuals who things happen to them that, thankfully, for a lot of us in this room, we never experienced and we're never going to experience what they did. But I would never, ever dismiss what happened to them, because what happened to them is beyond the pale. And, you know, people need to be locked up for a very, very long time. And it is a shame on all of us that they weren't locked up at the time. And my reason, and we can't block it. And we can't, and you know, and I know the opposition will say, oh, you can block it. But the reality is, if the government wanted to do it, they would do it. And if they decide, if the new Home Secretary wrote to us tomorrow and said, we're going to launch a public inquiry, we'd say fine and open the doors. And like we did with the independent review, offer up thousands of documents and emails like we did. But do I, as leader of the council, think at the minute that's where we should focus our time and resource? And I don't mean resource by financial resource or anything like that, because whatever it costs to get justice for those victims, then that's what it costs, and there's not, you know, a barrier to that. But I do think our focus has got to be on getting justice for those victims, but also learning from the past. Because what happened to those young women and those girls should never, ever, ever happen to another child in this town or in this country ever, ever again. And it is a stain on all of us that it continues to do so all over. And I just wanted to say that, Madam Mayor, because I would never, ever dismiss their experiences. And I know people use it in a way to, you know, like make a party political point, which I find appalling. But I just wanted to make that clarification. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry.
Councillor Andini.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to keep it very quick, I mean, we supported the motion last time, and we're still of the same mind. I think there's something that is obviously missing from this motion is the lack of reference to the police as an investigation, their lack of engagement with the review. Said that last time. It is still the case that they did not get involved, they have not been held responsible, and they should be. I will say it's very good of the council to waive the 6-month rule so that this could be debated again. What I hope that we see is that the steering group, because the steering group has now been set up, so again, the motion doesn't refer to that. You know, I want to see that It doesn't, we're debating later its terms of reference. So it already exists in a different format. So, you know, that motion doesn't work. But still, you know, we support the principle of this. It should go further in certain respects. It needs to be changed in certain respects. Because, as Amanda Chen did just say at the end, the most important thing is justice for these people and to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So we would support anything that helped that.
Thank you. Councillor Holbein, do you wish to have a right to reply?
Oh, yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of points to emphasise what I said before, but also to say to Councillor Chatterton, we can't learn from the past, Councillor, until we've delved into the past and found out what's gone on. And yes, you are defending the indefensible by voting this down. I'm disappointed, but not surprised by what's come from the Labour administration side up to now. But after all, if their last Labour Prime Minister dismisses it and says it's a victim's choice and the police shouldn't get involved, and a Labour MP can say that victims should shut their mouths for the sake of diversity, why should we expect anything different from Oldham Labour councillors?
Well said.
Right, thank you. We're going straight to the vote now. Can we have all those in favour of the motion?
Madam Mayor, could I have a recorded vote, please? Sorry, it's late. I meant to ask it then.
Yeah. So we've got a recorded... have we got enough? Yeah. 1, 2... Right, so we're going to a recorded vote. All those in favour?
Yeah, recorded vote. I'll do a recorded vote. Right. Okay, so indicate for, against or abstain. So I'll start with Councillor Ahmed, Councillor Akhtar, Councillor Al-Hamdini,
For.
Councillor Ali, Councillor Alias, Councillor Arnott, Councillor Azad, Councillor Ball, Councillor Barnes,
For.
Councillor Bashforth Marie, Councillor Bashforth Stephen, Councillor Birch,
Against.
Councillor Brownridge, Councillor Byrne,
For.
Councillor Chatterton, Councillor Cosgrove, Councillor Dean, Councillor Gloucester Chris, Councillor Gloucester Hazel,
For.
Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Hamlet,
For.
Councillor Harrison, Councillor Hindle,
For.
Councillor Holbein,
For.
Councillor Hume, Councillor Hussain Aftab, Councillor Hussain Feeder, Councillor Hussain Sajad, Councillor Ibrahim, Councillor Iqbal, Councillor Jabbar, Councillor Kenyon, Councillor Lancaster, Councillor Marland,
For.
Councillor McLaren, Councillor McManus, Councillor Moores, Councillor Munro, Councillor Murphy, Councillor Mushtaq, Councillor Nasheen, Councillor Fithian Clint, Councillor Fithian Kyle, Councillor Quigg,
For.
Councillor Ria,
For.
Councillor Salamat, Councillor Sharp,
For.
Councillor Stretton, Councillor Surgeon, Councillor Sykes, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Wilkinson,
For.
Councillor Williams, Councillor Williamson, Councillor Woodvine,
For.
and Councillor Gary.
Against. So that was 24 for and 31 against. So the motion is lost. We now move on to item 11, is the update and actions from Council. I call on Councillor Chatterton to move and Councillor Lancaster to second the report.
Move, Madam Mayor.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Does any member wish to speak? Sam.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just something that's not included in the report as it is presented, but we are one council meeting away from it being 3 years since we passed the motion on the white ribbon, and I know there are other white ribbon ambassadors in the room. it's the process of getting the accreditation is a 3-year one. So it was to make sure that this was addressed in the next motion, or if there is any other information available now on how close we are to accreditation, could we have it? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Handane. I do not know is the honest answer, but I will come back to you. I can't believe it's been 3 years either. Thank you.
Okay. Does Council agree the recommendations as detailed in the report? Thank you. Go on to item 12, the corporate plan 2022 to 27. I'll call on Councillor Chadderton to move and Councillor Jabbar to second the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'll be moving but also speaking on the report as well, because quite a significant report, Madam Mayor. The corporate plan is 2022 to 2027, so our 5-year plan. Between that and our future Oldham, they set out Oldham Council will maximise our resources and efforts to make Oldham the best place possible for our residents. The corporate plan sets out 5 key policy areas which have been identified through extensive consultation with key partners and stakeholders across Oldham. Those 5 areas are, firstly, healthy, safe and well-supported residents. Second, a great start and skills for life. Third, better jobs and dynamic businesses. Fourth, quality homes for everyone. And lastly, a clean and green future. This plan places a heavy emphasis on one of my priorities as leader and something that I know from talking with residents matters to every single person in our town, and that's a focus on children and young people. Adopting this corporate plan will ensure that all decisions, policies and strategies that Oldham Council produces over the next 5 years focus on creating the best possible outcome for children and young people in our borough, as well as acknowledging the current and future challenges the cost of living crisis presents to us as a council and how services across the council will be improved so that residents have a better experience when they deal with us as an organisation. And in the same vein with our future Oldham, it details how we'll build on these priorities with our major partner organisations. We've been meeting with our key partners in the business community, the NHS, the education sector, the VCFSE sector, and we've had fantastic engagement for all of our partners who are committed to uplifting every resident and delivering for every single one of those residents. And if I may, Madam Mayor, briefly, I'll turn to my own portfolio, which is housing and regeneration, and talk about the difference the plans will make there. As mentioned previously, a key issue that arose out of our consultations in creating both of these plans was a desire to create good quality homes for all Oldhamers. So we'll do this by delivering high quality homes across Oldham that meet our residents' needs. We'll work with colleagues in Greater Manchester to build on the successful Bed Every Night project, and we'll roll out our tenants charter and landlord licensing to improve the quality of our private rented sector. And as I've mentioned already a few times tonight, we are delivering on our regeneration plans in the town centre. Through our Creating a Better Place programme, work is underway in the town centre to repurpose our town centre with a renewed cultural economy and more jobs by redeveloping Spindles, a new town centre park, a new community use for the old library, and creating enterprise hubs to help all those ambitious Oldhamers who want to start their own businesses. By making Oldham a more attractive place for businesses to invest and providing Oldhamers with the homes they need to stay in the borough, we can really move towards uplifting every resident and create opportunities for young people to plan whole lives and careers in Oldham. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I move the report.
Thank you. Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to second this report. And doing so, if I can just please concentrate on the green and clean future, which is mentioned in page 130 of the report. Madam Mayor, today we've heard quite a lot of questions from the public and councillor colleagues here regarding climate change and renewable energy and what we're doing about it and how we can clean the air that the borough we live in, and also how we can reduce carbon emission and produce power from renewable technologies. And this plan sets out our vision, Madam Mayor. So we want to be the greenest borough in Greater Manchester, and we were the first local authority in the country to adopt the Green New Deal. Our ambition is to become carbon neutral by 2030 as a borough, and as you've heard, we're doing things like looking at a district heating system, which hopefully, when it's developed, will provide heating for the whole of the town centre.
We're also looking at investing in our assets where possible, Madam Mayor, to install solar panels. We're looking at installing a ground-mounted solar array. At the moment, we're looking at the feasibility of that, and hopefully, when the business case is returned, we'll be able to go ahead and install that solar farm to produce power from the sunlight to power our buildings or assets nearby. So, Madam Mayor, it's quite an ambitious and forward-looking plan. And I know the opposition, particularly the Lib Dems, have been very keen in this area, and I welcome their support. In the past, Sam has regularly asked questions on this topic, Madam Mayor, and I'm grateful for that. I think what I'm trying to say, that this plan actually sets out a very clear vision in terms of climate change, in terms of creating renewable energy projects. But if you look on page 30, Madam Mayor, there's a list of things that we say that we'll be doing as part of this corporate plan, starting with supporting Oldham's growing green industry, creating more green jobs and opportunities, boost our position as the greenest borough in the Greater Manchester by improving and better promoting our amazing green spaces. I mean, some of the green spaces we've got is absolutely magnificent. Alexandra Park, Dovestone, Reservoir. I can name so many, Madam Mayor, and these are hidden gems that we have in our borough. Everybody is very proud of it. But sometimes you find that we don't make enough promotions of these beautiful green spaces that we've got. Creating new green spaces and opportunities through northern routes, Madam Mayor. Those who haven't been able to see or visit the site, I'd urge you to come and have a look. If you're interested in going on a tour, please let us know. Amazing 160-acre urban farm that we're developing. There will be many, many opportunities to do very creative things in there to embrace nature, especially for our young generation. Support the development of Greater Manchester's plan to deliver a clean air zone. Again, there's been question on that rightly previously, but I think, Madam Mayor, the plan that we've got now will deliver that for us. It will be a non-charging scheme, and I think that it will also, what's interesting is that with the investment-led plan, we hope to achieve the target by March 26. That's quite a new thing.
Councillor Barr, you're out of time. Thank you for your contribution. The next question is, any members wish to speak? And I've got quite a few names down at the moment. I've got Stretton, Ali, Akbar, Kenyon, Taylor, Mushtaq, Moore and Brownridge. Obviously, depending on time, if you're brief enough and just being concise with your point, if we do run out of time on this section, the latter speakers will after go the chance. Thank you. So the first, Councillor Stretton, please.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, could I just ask a point of clarification. So how long is this timed for? So how long is this timed for? Because Madam Mayor said if we like not. Oh, 30 minutes. Oh, right, okay. Thank you. Up to 30 minutes. Yeah.
Just a few items to go through on the agenda. Councillor Stretton, thank you.
I welcome the commitments in the corporate plan and our future Oldham to creating a borough with cleaner and greener streets. We will deliver these cleaner and greener streets through the continued rollout and further development of the immensely popular Don't Trash Oldham scheme. Our main focus now will be on enforcement for those who blight our streets with litter and fly tipping. We will do more to support our residents with recycling. As the leader mentioned, children and young people are the thread running through both of these plans, and the corporate plan sets out exactly why this matters to them. Oldhamers of all ages want to be proud of their neighbourhoods, and Don't Trash Oldham is an integral part of bringing back some of that community and civic pride for our younger residents. Place-based working is one of those public sector phases that perhaps residents don't understand, but what we're talking about is working at a district level or a neighbourhood level. And this is exactly what our residents want the council to do. People want services to be tailored to the needs of the places where they live. I'm sure colleagues will agree with me that the needs of areas in Hollingwood and Chadderton can differ as much as the needs between Hollingwood and some of our villages in Saddleworth, even though they're much closer. Some services will always need to be delivered centrally, but as much as possible we'll aim to do more locally and meet people where they live across our 5 districts. The pandemic highlighted how well the council and its partners can work together when there is an urgent need to do so. So we aim to bring council services and partners in the public sector, like the NHS, schools, housing providers and the police, closer together to provide community hubs in each district so people don't have to travel far. And we'll work with the Greater Manchester VCFSE Accord by working with the voluntary community, faith and social enterprise sector to build upon our already strong relationships to best make use of their understanding and links to communities in Oldham. We know now more than ever, because of the cost of living crisis, just how much of a barrier the cost of transport can be for people needing to access services. So I'm sure colleagues across the Chamber are grateful that measures have been brought in by the Greater Manchester Combined Authority and our very own Councillor Chadderton as the City Region's cost of living lead to cap bus fares this week. And finally, we'll be taking a community-centred and preventative approach to public services in order to reduce the need, as this will benefit everyone in Oldham. It's better for the public purse to get ahead of issues than it is to deal with them down the line. And more often than not, it's better for the individuals too. As the corporate plan points out, early help will look different in different parts of the borough. We are committed to weaving all of this together and delivering the best service for our residents and best value for money for council taxpayers.
Thank you. There's 5 items on the agenda. Whilst this section is actually timed, there's still 5 items. So I don't think we're going to get through all the speakers, as you can appreciate. So we'll go with Councillor Ali, Councillor Akhtar, and stop with Councillor Kenyon. Thank you. Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have set out our vision for Oldham in the corporate plan, and as the leader have alluded to, our young people are our future. We'll invest in our children and young people and make Oldham the best place for people to grow up in. In the pandemic, our schools, early years, college staff, parents, carers, and most of all, our children and young people have worked tirelessly in very difficult circumstances to achieve these results. In recent years, we have seen improvements in outcomes with progress in early years, primary and A-level results. However, we can't shy away from the reality that currently Oldham's young people face many challenges. Our results are not where it needs to be. We are extremely ambitious for Oldham. And as an authority and as an administration, we are focused on improving attendance, including recovering better than pre-pandemic levels. Pre-pandemic, our attendance was 95%. Now we are at 91.9%. We are working with school and did a huge messaging campaign recently through our council's communications, directing parents, encouraging parents to improve the children's attendance. We are recruiting additional staff to drive attendance in schools. We are investing and expanding our education providers. We have seen the creation of new places at our best schools, including a whole new school site for Saddleworth School. We have supported the opening of the Brian Clark Academy, which has opened in temporary building this week, and in April 2023 will move to new building in Middleton Road. This has already shown great benefits to children living within 1 to 2 mile radius and reducing pressure from other schools. It also means more of our young people are getting their first choice of school. We have announced the opening of the new sixth form supported by Eton College. Our projections show that the post-16 population will rise over time and the need for additional college places. Eton has a very well-established role in providing opportunities for young people to progress to a very senior roles across all sectors of the UK and international economies. The political and officer leadership team have worked tremendously hard to make that happen and ensure Eton chooses Oldham. We are developing a stronger post-16 educational training and skills offer by establishing a post-16 partnership, developing the Oldham Skills Plan in conjunction with GMCA, to secure the adult education budget, continuing to improve our brilliant lifelong curriculum offer to residents focused on need. The 50-plus Kickstart job opportunities that we provided in the council to our young people is now coming to an end. It was well received, well recognised by our residents. The effort this administration has gone to help young people and to bounce back from COVID. We are now boosting apprenticeship positions to provide more opportunities for our young people. As an administration, we recognise the challenge ahead of us, and we will do whatever it takes to support our children, young people and adults to thrive by promoting well-being and mental health. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Akhtar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Enterprise and employment agenda is critical to supporting the economy through the post-COVID and current cost of living crisis to ensure our residents have access to better jobs in thriving dynamic businesses. Under Enterprise, we will launch an accessible business startup support assisting new enterprises to start up and existing businesses to grow, linked to new enterprise incubator and accelerator hubs with an increased focus on supporting social enterprises. We will launch district and thematic business networks to increase strategic and operational engagement with our business community across the districts and support access into new markets. We will develop the creative improvement district and nighttime economy, thereby delivering our plans for a renewed purpose for Oldham Town Centre as a creative place with a vibrant nighttime and cultural economy, more jobs and homes. We will increase local spend with local companies and suppliers. For employment, we will support residents into work through our range of Get Oldham initiatives, including access to impartial information, advice and guidance. We will ensure that the sport is resident focused, putting the resident first. We will deliver a number of job fairs across the year. We will be connecting residents to the social value opportunities created by increased spend with local companies in terms of our massive regeneration programme. We will target support for children looked after and young people as they transition into adulthood. We will develop a new employment and skills strategy for the borough. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kenyon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep this brief. This is a 5-year plan without any targets. As an example, in an area which is very close to my heart, which is about directing council spending to local businesses and residents as much as possible. So on page 128, it talks of the aspiration of increasing the amount the council spends with local companies and suppliers. Sadly, there are no meaningful targets, and a plan without a target is a pipe dream.
Thank you. On my list, I've got 2, 4, 5 speakers. If we can allow you 1 minute each, if you keep it brief. Councillor Taylor, Councillor Mushtaq, Councillor Moore, Councillor Brownridge, and Councillor Sam Aldini. Yeah? Aldini, sorry. I can't read his writing. Councillor Taylor, you've got 1 minute.
Can I just ask, Madam Mayor, how long have we got left on this section? I thought we had about 10 minutes, so we're down to 5.
Yes, but we've got, if everybody takes theirs, if everyone uses the minutes, then we've got all the other 5 items on the agenda, and some have got amendments as well, so.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So, essentially, as Cabinet Member for Culture and Leisure, I really just wanted to take a little bit of time to share our vision as part of the corporate plan. because as a council we are committed to protecting Oldham's heritage, and we do have some fabulous old buildings in the town centre and across the borough, and we want to make the most of these wonderful assets. So I was going to say that members will have seen a huge amount of work being undertaken on the old library, but maybe not as much as we had anticipated, but that is just a starting point, because our vision for Oldham is to utilise our existing listed buildings, and a key cornerstone of this ambitious project is to create a new modern theatre space. This will expand the performing arts offer in Oldham and will complement the renovation and reuse of the old library, the existing gallery, and to create a new cultural quarter just to the south of the town centre. In conjunction with the wider redevelopment of the town centre, we have also pledged to develop a creative cluster to help grow nighttime economy businesses. This will undoubtedly generate good jobs and economic growth and will attract more visitors to the town. The prominent Prudential building, which will be repurposed to create innovative, flexible open space to attract creative and digital business to Oldham, and the Egyptian rooms will be repurposed as a food hall, catering for around 200 people. We know that our young people in particular have emphasised a desire for more youth activities and a clean and green environmental approach to development. So the creation of the new event space and a new performance and theatre space is a welcome addition. And by extending the lifespan of these cultural heritage buildings, we reduce environmental impact too. In the proposed Oldham plan, there is a clear commitment to delivering an enriching education for our young people, as the Youth Council has repeatedly told us that having a well-rounded, full experience in childhood is just as important as getting good grades.
Madam Mayor, I think that's been more than a minute now.
Sorry, I was looking at the traffic light system. Sorry,
No, it's not working on this, is it? You were given a minute.
Okay. I'll finish up there then, Madam Mayor, if other people want to speak.
Madam Mayor, just for a point of clarification, we are within the time, aren't we?
Yeah,
so
but we've got a lot.
But it doesn't really matter, doesn't it? If members choose to do that.
Well, I didn't get to speak when I wanted
to,
so the same rule should apply.
Well,
I think the difference is
we're still. Councillor Reyes,
Madam Mayor,
There's too many speakers.
Madam Mayor, the council leader could extend the council meeting if she wishes.
Yeah.
Well, it's not something that we really want to do, so Councillor Mushtaq.
Madam Mayor, I don't mind Councillor Taylor taking my time, because I'm good like that. Thank you.
Right, so therefore, you're not being fair now, really.
Do you want me to take my seat, Madam Mayor, and
Please,
I will let somebody else speak? Thank you.
Councillor Mushtaq, so...
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try to be brief, which is difficult. I guess for me the main point is we've got this corporate plan and we've got what we plan to do, but the important thing is that it translates into positive action and something meaningful for our residents. And on that front, as part of my portfolio, which includes digitisation and resident focus, I think it's important that we create that balance between ensuring that our residents are served properly, efficiently through digital means, but also, as I think always will be the case in a borough such as ours, to have that face-to-face. And on that front, earlier this morning, I did a walk around Access Oldham and the call centre, just had a listen in onto a phone call as well, and spoke to some of the staff. And I'm really pleased to say that the culture is already there, so we just need to embed that and build on that a bit more. Thank you very much. And I think that's the least I've spoken ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Towards the end of last year and earlier this year, the Youth Service undertook a consultation with young people, and this coincided with the engagement activities for the Oldham plan. 21 groups, that's 360 individual children, took part, and we also had the Make Your Mark ballot involving 10,888 children. The question our children and young people will now be asking is, did what they say influence a corporate plan? Well, I can assure you that it did, and that is why, when considering the plan, we asked why this matters to children and young people. I'll go straight to the end now, but finally, the next question children and young people will be asking is, are the council delivering what the corporate plan promised? And if we don't deliver, they will hold us to account. Thank you.
Councillor Brownridge, you've got a minute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So health is at the centre, or one of the main objectives of the corporate plan, and health, well, despite my portfolio, isn't solely my responsibility. It cuts across everybody's responsibility, so it affects housing and jobs and education. In terms of my portfolio and social care, we're looking at increasing early intervention to prevent problems further down the line, to allow more people to live independently for longer. And we're using the new ICS system to provide closer working with the National Health Service to provide more of a joined up service. I was going to say a lot more, but I'll leave it at that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Samandani.
You got it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Practice makes perfect.
It's similar to what Councillor Kenyon said and put very well. It's the lack of details, the lack of targets in this document. It shows ambition. What it doesn't show is how, like, the specifics of what you're going to deliver. You know, and for example, and there's some detail which is really obviously hasn't been checked, where you're going to develop and deliver a 3-year plan in 3 years. Well, if it's not already there, you can't do the development and the delivery in 3 years. It doesn't make sense. The lack of detail, the lack of targets, they become platitudes. When you say that you're supporting increasing recycling rates, everyone is. What are you actually going to deliver?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chadderton, you have a right to reply.
Thanks. I'll only keep it really brief because I am conscious of time. We have got a few things left. Just thank everybody for the contributions. I suppose in terms of Councillor Hamdani's point, that wasn't the purpose of this document. You know, things underneath this. This was meant to be a more strategic document, but under each of those aims, there is a plan for each of those aims. But if we were to bring that for everything, you know, the document would run to probably hundreds of pages, but that is why. But under everything, there will be a measure of success and how we're going to get there, and there will be tangible targets. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does Council agree the recommendations as detailed within the report? All those for? Yeah. Any against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Item 13 is the local planning scheme for delegation. I call on Councillor Chadderton to move and Councillor Jabbar to second the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I move the report. The proposed amendments to the local planning scheme of delegation aim to bring our framework up to date and reflect legislative changes. Amendments to the Council's local development framework scheme of delegation was last approved over a decade ago on the 14th of September 2011. The Cabinet report sets out exactly how and where the levels of decision making required for documents prepared as part of and in support of the local plan are taken, and sets out the process for creating neighbourhood plans and the Brownfield Land Register. These decisions allow us as a council to support Oldhamers with the homes they need and deserve, while ensuring communities have a strong role to play in the changing nature of the places where they live. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jabbar. Thank you. Does any member wish to speak? Does Council agree the recommendations as detailed within the report? Agreed. Perfect. Let's on to the next item. It's item 14. It's members' allowances. I call on Councillor Chadderton to move and Councillor Jabbar to second the recommendations 1.1.2 of the report.
Sorry, I thought you had more recommendations there. Thank you. So I rise to move the paper as leader of the council, and I want to make it clear that the report deals with two separate matters, all related to allowances paid to elected members for various roles. Firstly, it lays out the recommended changes to the member allowance scheme for 2023-24, so will not come into place until next May at the annual council. While council tonight may agree with these recommendations, it's important to understand the role of the independent remuneration group. These are a small group of independent members of the public who consider what allowances should be paid to elected members for a variety of roles. It is important, I think, that this process is independent, and I think we come on very dangerous ground when councillors are setting their own allowances. This also takes into account the level of allowances paid in respect of other authorities, and particularly the 9 other Greater Manchester authorities, and ensure that the allowances are both reasonable and reflect the duties which elected members undertake. The panel have recommended a number of changes to the scheme for next year, including removing allowances currently paid to shadow cabinet members and the removal of assistant cabinet member allowances. Now, as an administration, we may not wholly agree with all the recommendations, but we do support the diligent and thorough approach taken by the panel in putting the report together. And as I say, you become on very dangerous ground when you start setting your own allowances as a councillor, and we've taken the view over the past 11 years that essentially whatever they propose, we accept. It is important that we pay appropriately for the duties that councillors undertake. It's also important that we recognise the work and hours it takes to be a councillor and to be able to attract people that are reflective of the communities that we face. All groups in this chamber, and you can look around, and we struggle to attract people to be councillors, and we struggle to attract working mothers to be councillors, and that is why, do you know, the average age of a councillor in this country is over 60. And that is because it's often for, you know, the preserve of the retired, because they've got more time to do it. And I do think that we have a duty to actually say something positive about what we do as a role of councillor. To be a councillor is not a race to the bottom. And when you look at what we are paid comparatively for our basic and other allowances, when we compare ourselves to other Greater Manchester authorities, our basic allowance is second lowest in Greater Manchester. So 8 of the other authorities, their basic allowance is higher than we are. So we are in no way whatsoever earning any more than anybody else's, really. It's also keen to reflect that for most councillors, this isn't a full-time job. But if you are leader of the council, obviously it's a full-time job. But certainly if you're cabinet or deputy leader, that is a lot of hours you put into it. When I was deputy leader and when I was a cabinet member over the past 9 years, it was often taking me up to 30 hours a week for the work that I did for the council. And we've got to recognise that. And sometimes you've got to be open and honest with the public instead of feeding this unnecessary negativity about all politicians are untrustworthy and don't do anything. Now, obviously, I can't speak for every group in this chamber. I can only speak for my group, because I know other people have different opinions on this, some very vocally to the local press about what they do or don't do in relation to their allowances. But certainly on this side of the chamber, we do a lot of work, and, you know, we're happy to put that case forward. So that is the first one it relates to. That comes into place in 2023 and 24. I think it's also important to recognise everybody knows we have an all-out election next May. So I stand here and we sit here not knowing who is going to be the lead administration in the council or the leader of the council. So this report comes without prejudice. The second part of the report outlines 2 matters relating to member allowances for this year. One is the agreement at the level of the annual increase, which follows on agreement at May annual council, and the other one is in relation to the agreement of additional SRAs in line with the current scheme. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Jabbar.
Seconded, Madam Mayor, and just add to say that you know, this is a report of an independent group of people who looked into this and interviewed a number of councillors. So that's a recent history that I think we want to preserve in making the decision in respect of this paper. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We do have an amendment on this, so I call on Councillor Quigg to move and Councillor Woodvine to second an amendment in this report as circulated. Please keep to time.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep it brief. We've talked much about cost of living tonight, and I agree with some of what's been said in the report. But sometimes we have to match our words with actions, and I'm all in favour of making sure that we actually match those words with actions and say that, well, instead of giving ourselves an increase, why don't we actually take a quarter of freeze? Because we can't go to the people out there and say, and play the violins to us that we're suffering here in this chamber when actually out there that they are. And I think we should match those actions with words, and that's why I put this amendment down tonight. I agree with, like I say, some of what's been put in the report, but we do have to take action, and we do have to say something to the report, and we have done. And I do agree with, like I say, most of what they've said, but I also think we should go further. So in that regard, Madam Mayor, given the timing, I'll let Councillor Woodvine continue.
Thank you. Councillor Woodvine.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I second this amendment, and I'd just like to say that tonight the Labour administration have cried crocodile tears, really, and that if they want to put the money where the mouth is, they should accept this and take the 1% pay cut, because in Oldham the SRAs are very, what's the word, inflated, I would say. And I'd be quite interested to know actually what effect this scrapping of the assistant cabinet member makes, because I didn't think we had any assistant cabinet members in Oldham. I thought that was more of a Tameside venture.
Thank you. I'm going to ask if any members wish to speak on the amendment, and Councillor Sykes has indicated. Councillor Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be very brief. We'll be opposing the amendment for similar reasons to which the leader outlined at the start. Since we've always had an independent remuneration panel, have always supported its recommendations. On many occasions I don't agree with them, and the particular report they've tabled tonight I think is one of the poorest, ill-researched, ill-advised I've seen, but it is what we've asked them to do when they've done a job. And I think if you ask people to do a job, you've got a duty to back them. And that's why we'll be opposing the amendment and voting for the recommendations of the Independent Remuneration Panel, something we've done since it was instigated 11 years ago. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hoban.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've not had time really to have a look at the report, as it only came out recently. But I just wanted to ask Councillor Chatterton if we could get some clarity on it. With the recommendations that are put forward, will that save? Is it less? Will it save us some money next year? Is it going to be less payments? I know that the individual allowances will go up, but when we remove the SRAs, it says, will we actually save some money?
So I was going to respond to this on my chance to respond to Councillor Quigg's amendment. And, you know, he's right, because people do say, don't they, what you're getting paid for, and I know there was furore after the annual council about it. But yeah, this is a saving of £42,000. So quite a significant saving, and probably the biggest saving we've had in members' allowances for years. And, you know, Councillor Quigg wants to give back or whatever, and that's absolutely fine. But this is a quite fundamental and large saving to members' allowances that we're proposing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any other members wish to speak? Councillor Arnott.
Thank you. Very briefly, just a quick question. I have no idea of the intimate workings of the independent group, but can I just ask for clarity that they're completely, or can you explain how independent they are, and are they directed to look at a particular item? Let's say, for example, the removal of shadow cabinet post. Not that I agree or disagree with it either way, but are they given some guidance as that the council, the ruling authority, would like them to look at a particular issue or not? So it's a matter of how independent is independence. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks. So, Councillor Anna, are you asking me if I ask them to remove your allowance, essentially? So, no, so they're not guided, and they're not guided by me. It's run by our Director of Legal Services. And I must admit, because this is the biggest change, is obviously the removal of the shadow cabinet allowance. And I queried that because I'm not necessarily in agreement with that, if I'm being honest. And they did ask me about it, and my view was, and I think, you know, Councillor Woodfine's comments in the press didn't help, but my view was that maybe some members don't do anything, or whatever the terminology you use for it, but I'm not sure you should punish everybody else for it. However, like I say, as an administration for the past 11 years, we take their recommendations in full. We've never taken the approach that we should start amending it and dictating our own terms. But in terms of this one, they looked at every allowance, because it will be a new council from May next year after the all-outs. I don't think, unless Paul's got anything else to add, that is what I understand the process was.
Thank you. Do you wish to reply?
No, I've already replied, I'm fine, thanks.
Does Councillor Quick wish to reply?
Briefly, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, fair enough to the comments and the questions that have been asked, but unfortunately the decision to either make a difference and set the tone to the people of this borough, whether we will actually take a reduction or remove further posts that we don't need, you know, paying planning committee chairmen, paying people to sit as deputies, just cut them. Let's cut the fat. Let's save even more money. As Tesco says, every little helps. So let's cut a bit more. You know, let's take the politicians' pay and let's put it back into local services, and that's where it should be. Just silence from that side, please. It really is pointless. It doesn't get rid of the negation that the public have in their mind that politicians have the snouts in the trough, and we've got to make sure that we say to these people, we understand your pain out there, and let's cut things back. And it's as simple as that, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops, keep pressing the wrong button. Does Council agree to the amendment? Those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? Well, that's
The amendment's lost.
So the amendment's lost. The next section is, does any members wish to speak to the recommendations as contained in 1.1.2 of the report? But I am very conscious it's nearly 9:25. Yeah. So if you just move to the vote, does the Council agree to the recommendations at the report 1.1.2 of the report? Those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? Right, that's been recommended then. I call on Councillor Chadderton to move and Councillor Jabbar to second the considerations of the matters in 1.2 of the report.
Move, Madam Mayor.
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do any members wish to speak on the recommendations as contained in 1.2.1 of the report? No, thank you. Does Councillor Chadderton wish to reply?
No, thank you.
Does Council agree to the recommendations at 1.2 of the report? Those in favour? And the allowances detailed? Yeah. Those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? That's fine. Item 15 is the Treasury Management Review. I call on Councillor Jabbar to move and Councillor Chadderton to second the report.
Move, Madam Mayor.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does Council agree the recommendations as detailed within the report? Agreed. Thank you. Is the elected member steering group on child sexual exploitation terms of reference? I call on Councillor Moore to move and Councillor Chadderton to second the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very quickly, the purpose of the report is to provide a full Council with an update on the elected members' workshop held in August 2022 and agree the terms of reference for the elected members' steering group on child sexual exploitation. Appendix 1 of the report provides an action plan in response to the independent assurance review into historic child sexual exploitation. Appendix 2 of the report sets out the draft terms of the reference for the elected members' steering group. I would ask that members note the contents of the report and agree the terms of reference for the elected members' steering group on child sexual exploitation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Chadderton.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and I'm nice to second it. Only very briefly, because I'm conscious of time, and I know there's an amendment, isn't there? So, obviously, the content shouldn't come as a shock to any member of the chamber. We as group leaders agreed it, and then we had an all-member workshop. That was actually really well attended, considering it was just off the back of recess as well, which is really positive. We've had feedback in, and it was amended from its original report to incorporate some of the feedback we've had from another group leader. Given how extensive we have spoken on this, and there is an amendment, and we've only got about 3 minutes, that'll be all, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we've got another amendment. I call on Councillor Sykes to move and Councillor, I'm going to say it right, Alamdini to second.
Hope you're not knocking that off my time, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to say some of the draft terms of reference have changed and incorporate some of the suggestions I've already made, so I appreciate that and whatever. There's 2 other minor changes that I just think tidy it up and give it more teeth. It talks about an assurance to support victims, but it only talks about present and historic if you need to be consistent, I think you need to put future, because I'd love to stand here and say there aren't going to be any in the future, but there will be. So in order to be consistent, otherwise it will exclude us for looking at future things if you take it to its literal thing. But much more important, even more important than that, is the addition of, as I describe it, number 7, to have the ability of this group to call witnesses and third parties about any issues within its remit for the steering group. Otherwise, we will only ever hear from officers of the council. I know there are some occasions where I'd like to listen to third parties, some of which we've debated and heard about in this chamber. Some might be the GMP, or there might be other agencies, or actually individuals. So the ability to call witnesses and take evidence, to ask the real people, has it changed? Are we doing what we say we are doing? I think will be much more like a proper select committee and needs to be incorporated. Otherwise, I think this is a lot weaker and the steering group will be a lot weaker for it. And for those 2 minor amendments, I so move, Madam Mayor, and hope people will support them in the spirit they made.
We're going to run out of time, so can I propose a 5-minute extension to this meeting?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I didn't really mean to sit down then, because there's a third bit to my amendment I'd totally forgotten, which is it should meet every 2 months, a minimum of 5 times a year. Because I think a quarter, if something isn't at a meeting, if it only meets 4 times a year, and then you wait to the next quarter, it's far, far too long, whereas every 2 months isn't a treadmill, but it is regular enough to provide the assurance that I think other members in this chamber would want from the 8 members that sit on this.
Right.
Sorry to admit that, Madam
We've
Mayor.
actually run out of time now. Can I propose a 5-minute extension to this meeting? Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Right, thank you. Councillor El Hamdani to second an amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Seconded, and just to reflect on to reflect on the all-member meeting that we had when the terms of reference, the most inspirational speaker I found was from Keeping Our Girls Safe. There was so much information in what she brought, and I think it's really important in what we said about bringing additional witnesses in. Like, the difference it made having that contribution was really important and really valuable. And so I think that's, for me, that's the most important thing in these amendments, but they're all important. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on the amendment? Councillor Moores, you wish to reply? Thank you. Does Councillor Sykes wish? Councillor Sykes, is it? Yeah, sorry, it's this. Yeah, go on.
So it's just on this. So I think you've misunderstood the first 6. So, and as GMP and Keeping Our Girls Safe said at that meeting, they will be at all the meetings. So it's not just a council meeting. That is the whole point. Because it's not just us, is it? It's wider about how our partners deal with this. So GMP, and we saw Abigail, who's one of the detectives overseeing the CSE operation in Oldham at the moment, either her or one of her officers will be at every single meeting, because we have to get an update for a start on Operation Sherwood, don't we? But also what GMP are doing at the moment to it. But the thing about, it's about new terminology about calling witnesses. It's not a select committee. But those other people will already be included, even though it's not said explicitly anyway. But GMP and Keeping Our Girls Safe did commit to, at that steering group, to attending. So that's on that. What was... There was 3 changes, wasn't there? Oh, about the future and present, yeah. Past, present and future children. Yeah, we could accept that. But I think what's going to have to happen is it'll have to go to the group at the time, and we can amend it there. I took advice, and we took advice on a group about moving it to every 2 months. And I think what was felt was it was slightly too often to get enough data out of GMP and out of social services as well. Because you want to be able to meet with proper data to be able to reflect what has gone on previously as well, to compare, don't you? And it was felt that every 2 months was slightly too short, but every 3 months, because initially it was less than that, it was every 4 months we were meeting, which did seem too long. So that's why it's been reverted to once every 3 months that we'll meet. So that was a clarification, because we won't be supporting it, but I wanted to recognise why we're not supporting it.
Thank you. Does Councillor Sykes wish to reply to the amendment?
Only very briefly, Mayor, just on, Madam Mayor, just on the ability to call witnesses. It might not be GMP, it might not be anybody else, but unless you specifically write it in there, I don't want to have a row with somebody who's sitting on this committee if I say, I think we should invite such a body to a meeting to tell us what it is or whatever, and it makes it explicit. Hopefully it's something we might not use or might use very infrequently, and I think it's stronger for it. But people have decided what they're going to do. We've tried to be constructive and engage with this, and we've suggested what we think are positive amendments to make this a better process and not just a steering group in charge actually of steering nothing.
Thank you. If we go to the vote now on the amendment, those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? Sorry, that amendment's fallen. There's no time to speak to the reports. Councillor Moores, do you wish to reply? No, thank you. Does Council agree to the recommendations as detailed within the report? Councillors for? Against? Abstentions? Right, so that's agreed. That actually concludes the business. But just before you all go, can I just say a big massive thank you to everybody, particularly the leaders who've agreed to support what has been a very, very difficult agenda to actually chair with so many amendments. But thank you all. Thank you.